Gentlemen, welcome to the program. I am your host, Chris George Zuger, and to my right is nobody. Big Sexy Alex is not in the studio today, but you still have reached the Den of Lore. Pull your chair up to the fire, grab yourselves a glass of scotch, because we are going to learn some cool shit tonight about the Great Pyramid, courtesy of Danny Kerr and Doug Keenan. This is episode 29, the 30th of March 2017. If you're listening to us on deprogrammed radio, you can, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you've checked us out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or the multitude of other aggregators that are currently feeding our signal all across the world, thank you very much for tuning in. We love doing this show every single week, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to be able to put this program on for all of you. So, first thing is, and I am currently being told that we are not having any data being sent in. So, give me just one moment here. Let me switch things on. Let me switch the camera on so you can all see my beautiful face. And as you can see, I'm a little bit dressed up tonight. On the program today, we've got two very special gentlemen. But before we do get to that, I did want to be able to read a email from a listener of the program. And I'm just going to turn on my headphones there. 1 second. That's a little better. Whew. Now, normally we do the opening segments, and Alex and I do some banter back and forth. But this is from a listener of the show and supporter, and somebody who has been kind enough to send me his impressions of the program, as well as what we have been doing here in the lore for some time, to support John Anthony West's cancer fight. And it starts. Gentlemen, I love the support you have extended for our brother John. I commend you, and so this is being sent out to myself and Randall Carlson and Cameron from Sacred Geometry International and all the other guests for your selfless contributions so far. Further, I hope that you feel so energized by the outpouring of support as to find yourselves engaged for the duration. For John, for his loved ones, and for our species in the larger war against the suppression of ideas and information. We often forget that this type of fight is a long-term battle. Even with the recent successes and apparent improvements, the aftershocks of this will reverberate with the West family for years to come. I wish you the vigor and the stamina to stay the course and to keep building this momentum, expanding the community, and engaging direct participation. On that note, I wanted to add that I've just added my own financial contribution to the John Anthony West coffers. My contribution is a direct result of the seed Randall planted with his tweet some weeks/months ago, the first he had heard of the Fundly campaign. At the time, I saw myself contributing $33 and calling it a done deal. However, with the heart and soul that you guys have put into this, especially the collective effort that went into the Den of Lore telethon, I knew I had to do more, so I dug deeper, and that seed has grown. I say this only because my actions were directly impacted by your efforts, and I hope you appreciate knowing that your efforts have borne fruit. Or, to paraphrase, great work. Keep it up. Finally, from my heart to yours, thanks for being you. Thank you for the time and effort you have poured into your passions, and thank you for sharing that passion with the world. All the best, Wayne. Wow. I honestly think that I've got Doug and Danny on the line here.
What a great letter.
So okay, well, sorry. Let me just turn your channel up here. I'm always extremely humbled whenever I do this show because I love doing it. I love ancient mysteries. I love the community as a whole when it comes to those who are seeking truth, and it's very humbling to know that I'm new to this game. For people like Randall Carlson or for Graham Hancock or Laird Scranton, all the guys that we brought in, they've been doing this for 20 30 years. They know how their work affects other people because they're probably told every day by people who appreciate that they've stuck their necks out and they've been able to put their reputations and names on the line for something that they believe in. I've only been doing this for 6 months. So when I get a letter like that, it's extremely humbling to know that the work that we're doing is making a difference, because I just see it as somebody who needs help, and okay, well, what is it I can do to be able to bring that what is it I can do to help out?
Shine the light in your corner,
So,
Chris.
yeah, that's pretty much it. So Wayne, thank you very much for supporting John Anthony West. Thank you very much for your contributions, and everybody who has donated to the Fundly campaign. It directly affects. Like we heard from Clay last week that there was a 50% or 57% reduction in John's cancer, and this he's still battling pneumonia, and he's still getting over that. And at his age, it's for somebody to be able to have regressed stage 4 cancer, in addition to battling pneumonia, and still be able to show improvement is a testament to Dr. Brzezinski's work down in Houston, and the love and the support that his fans and the fans of the show, and the fans of Fade to Black, the fans of Grimerica, the fans of the Higher Side Chats, the fans of Friends to Know, the fans of Coast to Coast, anybody who is a truth seeker who tunes in every single week and who appreciates what we do. They've pitched in, and they've done their part. Now, I checked the Fundly campaign last week, and right now I know that the Fundly campaign is up to $95,257. And because of the success of the campaign, Clay's extended it because, well, John's halfway there. The campaign's halfway there, and we need to make sure we can get him the help and support that he needs. So the links are in the bottom of no, actually not the bottom. They're in the show notes. You can donate via credit card. You can donate via PayPal, and whether it's $10, $1, $100, $10,000, if you can give to support and help somebody who has given so much to this community for his entire life, a fighting chance at kicking cancer in the crotch, as we like to say here in the Den of Lore, please, I encourage you to do so. And we'll keep giving you updates. We're going to stay with the campaign for as long as it goes, and to make sure we hit that goal of $155,000. So we are about. Doug, you're an engineer. Do the quick math. 95.
I am
95.2 over 155 times 100. What is
95.2. 95.2. Sorry, what?
Over 155.
About 60%, 61 something.
That's still pretty damn good. That's still amazing. So, and again, I do apologize, everyone, if I'm not currently in the chat. I've just been trying to pour my heart out here on the interwebs for everybody. And I'm just going to over to the chat window. Ooh. There we go. Now I can interact and see everybody there. So who do we have all in here? So I see Ellen. I know Danny would know this because he's Canadian. He's from the Niagara region. I see, and you would know, what was that kid's name? She holds up that mirror that has like the hole in it. It's just like I see Wayne, I see Kevin, I see Doug. Well, Doug's in there too. I see Cartoon Woody. That is the best nickname we've actually had in the show so far. And I see Ellen. We've got our crew here, and I'm thankful that I get the opportunity to be able to do this show every single week with all of you, and we are doing some good work. Now, just on an interesting note, I told Greg that, well, I should say, Greg Carlisle from the Higher Side Chats. A while ago, or not, I think it was like 2 days ago, had, what was it? Now, I don't want to give this son of a bitch some free airtime here, but I'm going to try and find this post. There's been a lot of activity on my account the last couple of days here. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. So there is this guy who basically put out a podcast against truth podcasters. And he, completely railed against the Higher Side Chats, No Agenda, Kevin Barnett and all that, and, called Grevin Carlwood a secret Freemason. Now, believe it or not, I have to find this funny because it's like I am actually a Freemason, and I felt very insulted that I was not torn down on this podcast. So,
We're not all secret about it, though, right?
well, no, that's the whole thing. Like it's not about the secret. I'm very open about it. That's part of the
Yeah.
part of the marketing. It's like join 32nd Degree Freemason Chris George Zuger talk about ancient histories, mysteries, and Atlantis. Sunday. So, but still, we're still building. We've only been doing this show for about 6 months, and we get several hundred viewers watching every single Friday night when we do this show. And literally at this point, we're getting about tens of thousands of viewers on all of our different channels every single week for every single episode. And thank you very much, Madam Smelly Pits, Romper Room. That was Romper Room. I appreciate the plug for that. So tell your friends about this show. Load it onto their podcast players without telling them. Leave the video open in random places like the Apple Store. Let everyone else know about the show. And I'm going to kick it right off. And I hate plugging for my own show, as it were, but if you go to denoflore.com, if you like the show and you like what we bring to you every single week, there's a little button called Support the Show at the top right-hand corner. If you click that, if you could support the show for $1, if you like what you hear and you support the show for $1, it keeps us 100% ad and sponsor-free. That means we can say whatever the hell we want. I can drink as much scotch as I want on air, and we can have the guests say whatever they want without any issues or without any problems. No censorship. That's what this show is all about. 100% freedom of speech. Within reason. My wife has told me I have to stop talking about the wife, so that's the only time I'll mention the wife on air. But if you like to be able to support the show, again, if you could send in $1, and if you like what you hear, fantastic. We don't want to be able to place ads on the show. I don't want to take sponsor money, and I don't want to be able to put out a 3 or 4 hour episode, cut half of it off, and then say, give me $4.99 a month so you can hear the rest of it. That's not what we're about. We're about having fun and building community. So, but servers cost money, internet costs money. If you can help out and help us out and help us bring you more shows and more content, the more we get support, the more shows we're going to do. Right now, we're once a week. We're going to do this. If I could do this four nights a week, that'd be fantastic. I will have Doug and Danny on as my opening co-hosts, if possible. If I can convince them to take their shirts off for you people, I will do so.
I'm game. Danny?
No.
All right. But you're in a band, man. I thought that was cool for you.
I'm not ripped. I used to be thinner. I'm chubby now.
Okay, you see these lines. Well, if you're watching on the YouTube, if you see these lines here, I got this nice little. I got this. It's called a 2-4. Doug, you're in, I know you're in America. You're in the U.S. You're an American.
I am.
And I don't know what 24 packs of beer are called up down there, but in Canada they're called 2-4s. So I got a 2-4.
That's a good start, is what we'd call it.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. So yeah, I'm wearing the vest now because at least it holds the pudge, and I'm trying to get the camera in the right position so that I can at least seem like I'm in a pretty good shape. My wife's make me go to the gym, and I'm okay with that. But oh shit, I broke that rule already. All right. So
you had one rule.
You had one rule. You broke the rule. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing. They've been on the air for a while, so I'm going to introduce our guests very carefully here. Let's see here. And I'm just going to try to make sure my notes are okay. Oh, there we go. So, and I wrote some of these myself, so please do apologize if this is 100%. Or I do apologize if this is not 100%, guys, but I'll try my best here. Danny Kerr is a researcher from the Niagara region of Canada, and although his research may be overwhelming to some, his basic idea is that both Tesla and the ancients thought up of similar systems for the distribution of electricity. No one has yet been able to replicate Tesla's earth wave vibration. And I missed an apostrophe in that, sorry. Vibration theory, or demonstrate a working model of the Great Pyramid as a power plant. Now, Danny demonstrates the simple similarities between Tesla's Wandercliff Tower and the pyramids, and presents the idea that the Great Pyramid could function as a low-frequency acoustic engine, with the passages and chambers of the pyramid in their current empty state. Now, Doug Keenan was born in Indiana and received his degree in electrical engineering from the Rose Hulman Institute of Technology. for more than 20 years. That's a long fucking time. He enjoyed a career in the consumer electronics field. You used to make big screen TVs, didn't you? Field and holds several patents, including the multi-brand universal remote control. Holy shit! Really?
I know.
Several patents, including the multi-brand.
434 U.S. patent.
Do you know how? Okay, and a computer programmer, botanist, and interpreter. Okay, now that I have you on the line, I used to work at Radio Shack when I was in my young 20s. Doug, I love you to death, but I swear to God, the amount of like 90-year-old people I had come into the show and then tell me the remote was broken when the batteries were dead, it drove me so insane that I would just, like, after like the first 3, I'm like, okay, you know what, that's cool, no problem. Like, you know, take it to the back, you change the batteries out, you bring it back, I'm like, oh, here's a brand new remote for you. I fixed it. It's not a problem. You're good to go. You don't even tell them that it was, you know, done. You know, there's a lot of explaining that needs to be done, but at the end of the day, I knew my way around that thing very well after the end of my first 3 months on the job.
Well, think about how many people just decide they want to buy a whole new television set.
You know, that's great, and that's what me working at Audiotronic was for. Oh man, back in like the heyday when big screen TV, like a good plasma was like $4 or $5 grand with good like 20% profit. Oh man, that was the good old days. Now it's like you go in and buy a $500 TV. There's like $20 worth of profit, and you wonder why people push the extended warranty so much. There's no profit on electronics, only on home audio, and home audio is not big anymore, unfortunately. So now that
only really high end.
Well, true. Like Bang & Olufsen, B&W, what Macintosh amplifiers, even Denons and Denons and Marantz will have good profit on it. But if you go to like the Pioneer stuff, usually they're like 15% profit, made in China. It's, you know, they'll last you 3 years. My Denon 2808 Ci has lasted me 13 years at this point. No, not a hitch. So. But anyway, I digress. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's an honor to be here.
Now, I'm going to say that if you want to be able to check out Danny's stuff, you can go to the Tesla Pyramids. TeslaPyramids.com. If you put in Tesla Pyramid, you're going to get nothing. TeslaPyramids.com. And for Doug has a couple of books out that I know that we're going to be going into here, but you can also check out his 3. Big Sky Map, Birthday Pie, which I found absolutely adorable, and this one here, Cycles of the Pyramids. Move this over. Cycles of the Pyramids. So, now, a lot of this research is based around the idea that the pyramid is more than just a tomb. Now, this is something that you and I and everyone at home...
It's not a tomb.
Well, it's not a tomb. That's the thing. It's not a tomb. And this is something that is something that everyone who is listening to the show can actually agree upon. And I know the first thing that I'm going to be asking... Well, we already talked about the first thing that I was going to be asking because I wanted to bust your balls a little bit because you guys have been supporting the show and you're becoming good friends, and I appreciate that. But the first thing I want to ask you is, how the hell did you guys hook up? Because you're different countries, somewhat different fields of study. I know that there are some disagreements in terms of your theories. What is the big correlation between both of your works, and how did you guys get started?
Can I take that one, Danny?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good question. Danny's actually been there. Danny has actually crawled around inside the thing. He's been on a tour, and so he actually has firsthand experience, and photographs. I had questions. I have not seen it, and was interested in certain parts of it that I suspected he may have photographs of. So I contacted him on Facebook, and the ball started rolling from that point, and we found out that there's such a synergy between our work that it's almost easier to work together than to work apart.
Exactly.
No, okay, no, like, was this something that you met somewhere? Like, did you approach him? Did he approach you? Was it something like you just kind of met up in a Facebook chat room talking about the flat Earth and flat Earthers and how they're completely insane? Like,
it was all about the flat Earthers. It was actually the granite slabs that are in the corridor that Egyptologists call the Ascending Passage. It's 3 large stones, slabs of granite, that they tell you were put in place and slid down to keep tomb robbers from going in and robbing the mummy, which was never put in there in the first place. And he had said something about that. It's very important to me to see how those are ends, because those are movable components in the device. They're driven by water pressure, and so it's important to me how they are stopped at both ends. And so that's what I was going after. Danny had a whole bunch of photographs. He's got all kinds of great stories. But that's specifically what I was looking for at the time. We are fortunate these days. Nothing beats going there and taking a look yourself, but at least these days we have a lot of high definition photographs, a lot of videos. So you can do a reasonable job of figuring things out, from a distance.
Okay. Actually, Doug, I want to know what you think about how people say they were concreted in place, or the granite plugs there, because I think that the limestone sediment could just harden, and limestone doesn't change shape when it's used in concrete. It hardens just the way you leave it, so sediment could harden just like concrete, and that's what I figure.
Well, the thing about concrete, though, is everybody since the Romans has had concrete. So unless you watch somebody putting it down there, who knows why people are doing stuff. You'd have to see if it makes sense. And I would, like I say, I was just going with the standard argument that Egyptologists give you, is that the things are free to move, that they put them somewhere. So I'm actually just going to run with that.
And they were
at some point they were concerned that they might slide or something. So somebody decided, hey, let's just cement them in place.
Oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, what's the second thing? And again, again, this is going to be the second question that I was going to. I gave you guys a heads up on it because I didn't ask it last week out of respect for Stephen, because we were, there. I still
Stephen's doing a good job. He's doing a
good job. I still believe in the Orion correlation. It's not really believe. The evidence from what I've seen, from everything I've read, and for the fact that I've seen documentaries, I've read the paper on it. I've talked to Baval himself, and everything makes sense. Like, if the mainstream and the not mainstream is pretty well about 95% of the way agreeing that this is probably a thing, and whether it's Cygnus or whether it's Orion, either there, but still.
That's Andrew Collins' work, right?
Well, true.
The Cygnus connection. Actually, everything that Danny and I are going to be saying tonight is not in conflict with the OCT.
Okay, and that's good to know. Now, the next question is
it sidesteps it altogether. We're looking into. I'm more concerned about the planets. And Danny's more concerned about what it's doing to Earth currents. So,
okay.
If somebody. I don't think either Danny or I are inclined to do so, but if somebody wants to argue that they are a representation of Orion's belt, go for it. That we are not in conflict with that whatsoever.
Okay, now the next thing is that you did show me. Now I'm going to bring this up here because the next question was, what the heck is with the water? Because every single engineer that I've talked to has said the pyramid cannot hold water; it will leak because it is porous. It's like, again, even if it's rock, even if you cannot slip a piece of paper between the stones, the water, if it's under high enough pressure, the water still will find its way out. So how do you account for that?
Well, that's actually a straw man, though, because I'm arguing that there's a moat wall that surrounds it that actually holds the water in. So long as the operational passages are more or less airtight, and they seem to be made that way because they're basically constructed out of two pieces of stone, then no, you can let the water go through the cracks. As a matter of fact, everything below the water line, which is on that technical drawing, I expect it is going to be full of water. So to see it not leaking, I mean, of course, we're not arguing like that there's, water locks or something going all the way to the top that has to hold that water.
Okay. I think it was saturated, and that maybe helped it not leak. It's not going to leak if it's completely saturated. There's, almost nowhere for the water to go other than maybe down slowly, but it's constantly replenished.
Okay. Now, I know that there was an image that you had sent me today. I'm going to try and see if I can bring this up here. I'm going to close Photoshop and see if I can actually find the image. So let's see here. That's it.
Oh, John Cadman in the house. Yes, the moat wall is not a controversy.
Okay, well,
they say that it keeps people out. We're saying it keeps water in.
Okay, now I've got the image up on screen. That's the beautiful part about the technology and being my own producer. I can bring up my own images. Now the moat wall, and again for the viewers at home, it's on this side. Now my finger's about the side of the moat wall. I'm not sure if you're able to see it or not yet. The moat wall, from what you are describing, I believe is at about my eye level. So whenever you can see that on screen, let me know.
I see it.
Okay. I just have to prepare myself for this. So go ahead and describe me exactly what's going on here.
Okay, what we see is the cross-section of the pyramid itself. By now, most researchers should recognize most of the major structures. There is also a moat wall. This wall is currently, like I said, it's currently accepted to be in place. They will just tell you that I suppose that the priests put it there to keep people out. But as I have it shown in the drawing there, that's actually a wall to keep water in. It's supplying enough pressure. The device works on the energy of falling water. And so that water, the farther it falls, the more energy it's going to have. We know where the main entrance used to be. The water level had to be at least that high. My computations are there's about 10 centimeters worth of ripple into it, so that I just went ahead and put it another 2 meters overhead just to have plenty of room. You'll also notice when you trace that across, that water level now immerses the bottom of what is called the Queen's Pyramid, which is more of a reference area. It's the reference level for water in the whole thing.
Neat.
So yeah, going back to the leak question, I expect everything under that you see in the blue was saturated. So saying it's going to leak is irrelevant. Of course it's going to leak. It's full of water.
Okay, granted. And again, thank you very much for at least clearing that up. Now we can have some fun. That's I appreciate the explanation, and I would expect nothing else from the inventor of the Universal Basic Remote. So, the next thing is the entire Tesla concept. Now, I remember the tower. The Tesla tower, was originally supposed to have been built, and it was essentially built. It was just never really turned on. And this was the tower that he... Hello?
Sorry, it wasn't finished.
It wasn't finished. Okay, so the tower itself was not finished, but it was supposed to... It was being built with... I should be able to remember the name. And I know because it's actually a TV manufacturer. But the gentleman who was funding him at the time, and I know somebody in chat's going to be able to chip in.
J.P. Morgan?
J.P. Morgan is one. I know that, I think it was actually J.P. Morgan.
Was that Westinghouse?
Westinghouse, yes. And it was supposed to supply electricity for the entire, essentially for everybody, free energy for everybody. And when they realized that they could not make any money off of this, they shut it down. So, how does this translate to technology that was built, potentially 4,500 or older or longer ago? And what would the purpose have been?
Oh, well, same things, same purpose we have power for now. Cooking, heating, filtering water, pretty much anything. Even if you had a positive ground underneath your feet, that's how you get levitation. You positive ground would induce eddy currents into something like a copper wire or whatever, and it could float. That's something that's pretty crazy, but it actually might be possible. But I think that wireless power could have had all kinds of uses. I think the power traveled through the ground too. Just that they were able to pick it up with the ground, either with other pyramids or, and what it was used for, I really, really don't know. Maybe lighting these deep caves that have myths about caves, the caves' walls lighting up. These caves are sometimes kilometers long with no torch marks, with inscriptions in these tunnels. The Valley of the Kings Serapeum's a really weird one. That's just a really weird one. Those boxes, what do they do? They're like safes or something, or vaults. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the power could have been used for. All Tesla pyramids is basically just a pattern recognition on steroids. Just I noticed how the Tesla used two coils, and when you mix two coils AC frequencies together, there's only so many outcomes that are usable. And so I noticed that with these two coils, I figured after using test oscillators and my studio here, I figured that the best way to mix two frequencies is to create a beat frequency And when I realized that it's pulse DC, and I had heard in there's some websites out there like Tesla Society, and I followed Eric Dollard for a little while, where I was learning that they kept tossing around pulse DC. And being a sound engineer, I just noticed if you have two resonating structures built very close in size, that you get pulse DC output. Especially when, from my own personal experiences, I can tell it's low frequency AC mixing together.
Okay.
And that was from yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Now, I'm a graphic designer. I'm an advertiser. I'm a very creative guy. I understand a lot of the basics as far as building DC generators or step up or step down transformers, and I could see a lot of that from the work that's actually there within your Cycles of the Pyramids book. There's a lot of hard math that just really made my head spin. Like,
oh. Yeah, well, that was actually kind of the point. Whether it's honestly, if you talk to some people, everybody has a different audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I come out of an audience of engineering, and mathematics is like hieroglyphs in its own way. It's a language that has very specific meaning, so long as you know the context of everything. When I speak with another engineer, this is the language I need to be able to speak. There's a law I like to quote that comes out of spacecraft design called Aiken's Law Number 1, which basically says that analysis without numbers is just opinion. Basically, you have to back up what you're saying with something that can be quantified, that something can actually be measured. Then you can build models and see if that test, if it works. But it's one thing for me to say that the water falling down that tunnel in that drawing is generating a pressure wave, and it's another thing altogether if I use calculations on that to show that it's producing a pressure wave of 9.6 megapascals, which is
what is a megapascal?
That's a number I could take to another engineer.
Okay, and with all of that being said, if you're comparing the two things, how does the Great Pyramid relate to the Tesla's tower with regards to the construction? Like what was the same, what was different, and why does that matter?
Well, from my own observations, the Tesla tower was 2 coils in series with a virtual ground on top, and that the pyramids in relation would be their own separate, essentially coils or resonating generators, electrical generators there, and that each one would represent the coil, and they would be in parallel as opposed to series, and each having their own power supply. So as Tesla, building his tower, he probably could have had a parallel tower with the frequencies oscillating between the coils, just the same as the pyramid setup.
No, but parallel.
There's no coil in the pyramid, though, as far as we can tell. Maybe an internal spiral ramp, or it's the shape of the pyramid is allowing for resonance, of a specific frequency. That's where each coil would have a specific frequency, and then they would mix.
Now, by parallel, you're meaning 2 towers. Now, there was only 1 Tesla tower, which means there would have been a second tower.
There's no reason it could have been 2 towers.
Okay. Well, that makes a little bit more sense.
Just kind of stack them on top of each other.
Now, I've heard a lot of construction theories with regards to the pyramids, and whether it's through water, whether it's internal ramp, whether it's the giant ramp outside, whether it's an external ramp. Knowing what you guys know about engineering, knowing what you know about Tesla, how long do you think it would have taken to be able to build the pyramid?
Oh, long time.
Decades. A lot closer to 100 years than 20 years.
The whole site, yeah. Oh, the whole site probably took over 100 years. I think, who knows? You would need serious manpower. Half of that Giza plateau was built up. So you look at the pyramid, when you see the pyramid in person, it's on a hill. And USAF I1 actually took the whole tour group out of bounds and showed us where, to the east of the pyramids there, where there's multiple massive blocks that build up the Giza plateau. So they had to build essentially in probably more mass than the pyramid, or more cubic feet or meters there than the pyramid, just to build the pyramid. So say 20 years.
To get firsthand, like a firsthand look at it. And most people, and Robert Bavalas said this himself. I could be wrong on this. People study the pyramid, but they don't actually go see it. You have to actually go see the pyramid firsthand to know, because you can write everything down on paper, but until you actually are physically in the damn thing, everything else is just guesswork. Now, Ellen asked, did you actually lay down in the sarcophagus in the king's chamber? Did you get an opportunity
to lay down? Yes, I did.
Oh, cool. How was that?
I was like laying down in a rock box. It's you chant in it. You can hit the resonant frequency of the box and of the room, but it really that's just showing you reverb. I think you can hit actually in the bathroom at home. I showed my one friend Hans, who might be listening. We walked into we went back to our hotel there. Yes, it was like being bathed in vibrations. It was awesome. It was surreal.
Yeah, the resonance of the King's Chamber is well known. It's obviously designed for it, and you have to ask yourself, what's the point of that if all you're going to do is stick a corpse in it?
Now, if I'm
they went to a great trouble to bring the granite there and lift it all up, hundreds of feet in the air. There had to be a darn good reason for it, and the resonance, it matches up with a cathedral. It's for a space that small, it's nothing less than an acoustic wonder.
Well, the cathedrals themselves were built around a certain acoustic plan.
Sure, but look how big they are too.
One of the purposes was whether whether it was adapted through some basic understanding of how the acoustics work and how they can affect people. A lot of the cathedrals, especially around during the 1300s and 1400s, before the cooling period, you could stand at the altar and speak in a normal tone of voice, and you can hear the person or you can be heard at the back of the cathedral, which is amazing. When somebody's hitting the resonance within that pyramid, can that be heard in the Queen's Chamber and in the subterranean chamber, or is it can?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And any cave system would do that too. And one that was all reflective and flat inside would do it easily.
Now, how does this relate?
There's outside of it, you would hear the device going for miles. I mean,
especially underground. If you put your ear on the ground, you would definitely hear it.
Now, I know that Mark Nebel from YouTube chat's asking, and I was actually about to ask this myself. How does that resonance affect the fluid or the water? How is there any any purpose?
I postulated or I had the idea that maybe the whole system is hitting the resonant frequency of boiling water, and maybe it boiled the water instantly, adding to the efficiency of the system.
Okay, well, what would the purpose of boiling the water be?
Increase the efficiency of electrolysis, or just generating gas, putting energy into the water.
Okay, and I know that we've got an image here, and this is actually from. I'm going to see if I can bring this up here. Give me just a moment here. Add display capture. We're going to capture this from my. Hopefully this will work. Hopefully I do not, all of a sudden show my YouTube on this one. Nope. Son of a gun. All right, bring that over. There we go. Okay, so the image that I've got on here, this is from Danny's website, and that's a cross-section of the Great Pyramid, and also was the basis for the thumbnail for the show. Thank you very much for that, by the way. Can you describe exactly what's going on in, this is a process, obviously, and it's a step process. I can see the numbers laid out 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to
this is
14.
actually a diagram I got. I think it was John Cadman's originally.
Oh.
And he will let me use it. And basically, without doing what Doug did, without any math whatsoever, just using my basic, knowledge that I've gained over the years, I came to this. Not conclusion, but idea that if the change in water level could push out some gas, that gas could be ignited, maybe had a thermoacoustic effect, much like a big hot trumpet. And just that I think a thermoelectric effect happened possibly with the granite. As far as I can tell, piezoelectrics are very low output, and that I think thermoelectrics were at play here. by having, a pyramid even means fire in the middle. That taken literally, fire meaning like heat in the middle, hot in the middle. Maybe just very simply, the stones touching above the king's chamber where there's the junction, was where the thermoelectric couple was, and that that caused an actual flow of current inside, which created DC, which could have had a converse piezoelectric effect, which actually originally I posted an image on when I first published my website. I was saying thermoelectric modulated DC, because I thought that a converse piezoelectric effect essentially was just modulating the current put into it, so from thermoelectrics. And this is a stretch, and I don't have the math, but it from my just looking at it and seeing the heat of the situation build up. If this thing ran for 24 hours a day for weeks on end, it got hot. It would heat soak, and that heat would definitely not be wasted. Nothing seems to be wasted in this design. Everything accounted for.
Okay.
So the entropy of this system was used.
I'm just trying to, because I'm center camera right now, so I'm going to try and bring this up so I've got both on the same screen at the same time. So just give me just a moment here. There we go. Doug, I know that you said hire an intern. I may need to be able to do that one of these days. Somebody who can do this for me.
And sorry, I was forgetting. I forgot somebody who's here in the chat, and Doug and I both need to commend this guy, John Cadman. None of this would have even happened without John. I first seen his video, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. Rocked me.
People who are not familiar with John Cadman's work need to become familiar with John Cadman's work. He is breaking new ground with regards to the subterranean chamber, and has the only working model of it, and it's been working for, good heavens, more than 10 years, I'm sure.
So John Cadman's actually built a model.
He would make an excellent guest for you at some point.
Well, April is our science month. And I'm gonna have to get in touch with John then, because I've got a 1 week to book to be able to fill it up. So I'd like to be able to get all three of you guys on to be able to describe this in full.
Yeah, get Chris Dunn in there too.
Well, if I can get Chris, I probably have him on Facebook for all I know. But I'd love to be able to know a lot of the technical side. I know that he was the forebearer for this theory, and again, even for myself. I'm putting it out there for individuals. Whether I know it as a possibility or not, or whether I don't know shit when it comes to this. I've never been to Giza. I've never been into the pyramid. I'm going by the experts and the people who've been there and who've done the research, and we're putting the show out so that others can make up their mind and give them all the information that's possible, so they can discover for themselves whether this is a right theory or wrong theory. Not for me to say. I'm here just to be able to cheer you guys on and put the information out there. Now, the main thing for me is the process as far as the information's concerned. Can you guys walk me through the process? And I'm going to try and move the camera over here. So, again, I do apologize, everybody, if this gets a little bit bumpy. 1 second here. We are very low. We're slowly increasing our quality, but we are still very low tech. So, if you guys can walk me through what exactly is happening in this diagram.
First of all, this diagram is oversimplified.
Okay.
I don't account for, you wouldn't necessarily need to fill that Queen's Chamber, possibly. You wouldn't, who knows? It could have just simply rolled the water in, and it could have prevented it from igniting while pushing out gas almost in between cycles. But without building a model, you don't know for sure. But as far as Doug, you got to take it. We got to probably put one of your images here.
Oh yeah. I don't know anything about this. This is all Danny.
Yeah. I agree.
There. I agree at the water level. It's below with water, and about every other thing that, as much as I respect Danny, I think I've gone a little bit direction. I see the device as creating enormous frequencies resonating at all throughout the spectrum, and there's a whole lot of lower frequency spectrum that I don't have a clue what it's doing. And if Danny says that it works on principles that Tesla was investigating, hey, that's good enough for me. I'm more worried about the microwave signals that it's generating to bounce off of the other planets.
Okay,
Yep.
well, we're gonna get to that in a second. But Danny, can you walk me through the general, like the simplified process? Like, don't give me all the science, but like walk me through how this is supposed to work as as it's
Okay.
shown.
Alrighty. Water descends from the moat
So
down through the pyramid, pushes on a valve that slams itself shut, causes a shock wave to fire into the bottom of the pyramid, setting it into vibration. That shock wave continues up the descending passage, pushes the granite plugs a bit. They shoot some water up, water that was actually has built up past them. The water goes into the queen's chamber, pushes out some gas. That gas is ignited after it drains down between combustion periods, and the water that's left over on the queen's chamber floor, this is in my opinion, is left in the chamber to continue electrolysis production. And that's where the gas would start to seep out. If there's another image, if you scroll down on the page there, where it shows the queen's chambers and the horizontal passage is drained, but the water left over in that passage generates some gas between combustion periods while the passage is also open. I don't think you'd want it to dry out either. I think the water actually provided some resistance. The gas exited the chamber. The pressure pulse came up, pushed some gas out. If you shove water, inject water into a combustion chamber of a a jet engine, you get some gnarly effects. Raise the octane for one. That would control the burn perfectly, helping with the timing of the system. And I just think that the entire system just got hot by continuously creating fire, and that this fire could have had a thermoacoustic effect. When you stand in the antechamber, hitting the resonance there, anyone can do it. Anybody, a novice person, could stand in the antechamber and stand there and hum really quick, and it responds to you so well, it's freaky. And we've recorded this, and it was around 108 hertz. That's where I also use that information also to say that it's low frequency too. It's just everything seems tuned to around 100 hertz. And that, just the thermoelectrics of the situation. Basically, the Queen's chamber is in the center of the pyramid, in the middle of the negatively charged limestone. And basically, it's connected to the positive granite, which is positively charged by heat, through the horizontal passage. That's my own interpretation of it. There's zero math, but as far as I can tell, if that passage is lined in granite, which some believe, I couldn't tell when I was there. The pyramid is really dirty. They didn't even know the Grand Gallery was granite until it was cleaned, and I think Chris Dunn noticed, and he told everybody, "Hey, it's granite, 100%." And that was
noticed the scorch marks on it.
Yeah, and before the ceiling was cleaned, it was all black, and it could have been torches, right? But now, when you see that pattern, it probably wasn't torches, and it probably wasn't a fire that all the wood inside burning. That would the angle of the room would probably produce a continuous solid burn mark, not nodes and antinodes like what I think they're. The hot marks being where the antinodes would be,
Okay, so essentially the Grand Gallery would have been the plus, and the Queen's Chamber would have been the minus. That is the
yes.
And
the chemicals. Sorry.
Okay, and the chemicals. That seems to be the gnarliest 9-volt battery. Like if you stick your tongue on that, that's just gonna hurt a lot.
Maybe.
Or well, although I think for like those types of distances, you wouldn't be able to reach both of them at the exact same time. I haven't done this since I was like 5.
Oh, they think it's lined with granite. Even some of the Queen's Chamber could be granite. We don't know. It's so dirty, and it's not well documented. People say you can watch even Pyramid Code, and they show in the movie they show one demo where it shows how the whole thing was lined with granite, and the guy says it was lined with granite to maybe keep this thing going, when I think it's lined with granite just to make the connection. The thermoelectric, keeping thermoelectrics flowing. And the chemicals, basically, I think they just either had an exothermic reaction, they could have produced extra hydrogen gas, and I'm actually lately, because struggling to actually get heat out of this model, I actually think that possibly lead was being used, like lead dioxides or a lead cathode, and that would produce a ton of ozone, and adding tons of oxygen in the system, possibly enabling a serious heat output. And that would I would love to try and set up that model later.
Now, as we know, John Cadman is in the chat with us, and again, a lot of these models are based off of John's work, and I can understand that. He has mentioned something in the chat here, and again, I'd like to be able to just state this here. John said the flows are wrong, and I asked him to elaborate. He said the water in the gases perk. I'm guessing he means percolate, possibly from the rear of the subchamber up to the Queen's chamber. And then he stated,
that's not on the diagram.
Overflow water goes from the Queen's pooling chamber to drain back down into the well shaft. So
somewhere about where you see the 6 on the diagram, there should be an air release valve, because the subchamber does not like air at all, and it's got to have a way to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been... So the air release valve would have been somewhere on top, would have been like at the 7 or the 8
northwest corner.
The 6.
So the 6th. Okay, so it would have been on that area there.
And it runs up to the Queen's chamber.
Okay. Now I know that we've got Wayne actually asked a good question with this, and this is something I may have touched on earlier. We know that so the pyramid produces power. Any speculation on where it went or what it was used for?
Yes.
Go ahead, Doug. I'll take a turn in a minute.
My research at this point is very specific what they were using the energy for, and that's to use it like a radar gun and figuring out exactly how big the solar system is. You can only do so much with visual observations. It takes radar measurements to actually really dial in where the other bodies in our solar system are.
Okay, so what you're saying, I'm just going to drop this picture out. It's going to be kind of sudden here. Whoop, there we go. So what you're saying is that it was one giant radar emitter that
the Great Pyramid is the transmitter, yes.
Okay, so would that have made...
The middle one, the so-called Khafre's pyramid, is the receiver.
Okay, so do we have... That's the thing, like Khafre's pyramid, it's just the pyramid itself, and there hasn't been much in terms of studying of the Khafre's pyramid compared to the Great Pyramid, because the Great Pyramid is the one that is supposed to be, it's attuned due north by just tenths of a degree off, and it has phi and pi in it and all this. So that's the big hoopla over the pyramid. But nobody's really taken a look at Khafre's pyramid all that much. Is that correct?
The Great Pyramid is, arguably more interesting. Sure.
You know what? The whole plateau hasn't been looked at well enough. Yeah. Egyptology just disregards everything about the entire site. It's awful.
You know what really would be really hilarious if this entire if the radar theory were correct, and Zahi Hawass, who absolutely detests using radar and refuses to use it. So it's like, if he says no, it's like I hate radar, never use radar, and the entire freaking Giza Plateau is made to emit radar. I would just think that would just be the most hilarious thing ever.
Can you bring up the my website again and scroll down to that? There's an image, a big white image of the Tesla diagram showing the...
Yes, give me just 1 second here. I'm just going to... This is the problem with only having myself here in the studio.
Everywhere, in every direction. And
there we go.
Just like radio towers nowadays, this flat Earth theory, people can listen to this. Radio frequencies, you radiate away from Earth, and every 50 miles or so, we have to put another radio tower to keep the frequencies going around the globe. Or else, if not, they just keep going. So I think that that might even be a reason for building other pyramids.
Now, you've got that further down. That's the next... So that's the burn marks on top of the ceiling, scorch marks on top of the ceiling. And I know that you actually had I forget how far down it was with regards to the two pyramids. Oh, there we go. That's
there's a big white photo coming. I'm trying to relate.
Oh, there they are.
Doug.
So that's the Khafre and the Khufu pyramid. Now, obviously, if there's alternating currents that are being generated by the pyramids, and this is 1 second, 8 hertz, why is that significant?
Okay, the pyramids are really close in size, and two instruments that are resonating that are the same, mass and shapes practically, would fight. The frequencies would fight coming out of them. They're just too close in size. At that range, if you built a small pyramid that sat on your desk right now, like 2 inches high, and you started scaling that pyramid up, the tone would get deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually, when you get to that size of pyramid, the tones are so close. They're both so deep that they just clash. And I say like two keys on a keyboard, mostly the low end side of the keyboard, but
it's like having it's like having in sound, because like I've been a DJ before, and I know it, like for sound canceling headphones, you have the wave that comes in, and you've got the way when it's being detected, it sends out the exact same wave in the opposite direction to cancel that wave out.
Yeah, opposite phase too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So is that something that you have to be like if they're canceling the phases out? So
no. So this here is constantly combining positively and then negatively and then positively and negatively. But it's technically always positive when you talk about electricity. They're constantly, the frequencies are alternating back and forth. This picture is actually wrong in my opinion. It should be a 16 hertz wave with an 8 hertz underlying frequency that actually couples back and overlays it again and positively reinforces the amplitude again. So if you created a standing wave in something with pulse DC, it would just create greater amplitude pulses.
And this is would this specifically be to cancel out, like, so? And again, let me take a step back here and try and parse together what I'm being told here, so in my own words, so that hopefully you can tell me that I'm right, and especially for the viewers at home. If Khufu's pyramid is supposed to be sending out microwaves, or basically a radar sender, and Khafre is supposed to be a receiver. If they are that large, they're going to be producing some type of harmonic output that is in the audible range. So
you mean together?
Together. I was actually trying to be able to confirm whether it was together or whether Khufu was creating the sound, and Khafre was built as a receiver as well as a way to be able to cancel out the sound, so that it wouldn't just be this giant bass sound all the time. So it would kind of
that's really cool. Big bass catch.
Basically.
I think that pyramid might be on the spot where if Khufu's pyramid is rocking and singing away, and it's vibrating the ground, that the Khafre pyramid would be on that sweet spot where the phase oscillations or vibrations the phase vibrations are in phase. And so basically, if you put Khafre's pyramid on the sweet spot that's vibrating in the local area, you increase its mixing. You increase its ability to affect the situation because it's not off somewhere else. It's not resonating very nice. It's
Now, if it is supposed to be used as a radar sender receiver, is the ability to be able to create electricity a byproduct that they're just using to power tools and let's say power either the civilization or maybe it's just the valley? Is the electricity just something that is a byproduct, or was it part of the intended, was it a part of like a dual or multi-use function of this construction?
Maybe it was dual use. I think that a changing magnetic field that's always positive could induce current into something, no problem.
My personal opinion is that the culture of the builders seem to work more with water pressure and flows as we work with high voltage electricity. So it would be something they would do just to solve the problem they've got, which is the technical problem they have of measuring the solar system. But the electricity would be an ends to a means. They're not building the thing to power their power tools. There are certainly signs of power tools in the works of the builders. There's no doubt about that. But those could have been water powered for all that matter. There's a lot you can do with a lot of hydraulic pressure.
Now,
it drives turbines just as well as an electric motor does. So I can have anything that spins, I can drive it with water pressure just as easy as I can drive it with electric pressure.
It's what we do here in Niagara Falls. That's they just built a pipe that's like something like 60, 70 feet wide that sucks from right before the falls and siphons down through a whole bunch of alternators. Yep.
Unfortunately, the site now looks a lot like a desert. We have to get our heads around that. I believe at the time it was constructed that water was abundant. Stephen Myers had said something about that the pump is not that efficient, which is one way to look at it. But on the other hand, the abundance of the resource makes the inefficiency irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you're surrounded by water all over the place, however much you need to accomplish your goal.
Now, one of the things that, and this is, it's Nick of Time in the YouTube chat, and he uses the, it's N1 is the I, which is quite clever, actually. And I'm assuming he has a technical background because he used RX to equal receiver, and I did not get that. So thank you very much for clearing that up. He stated that it could have been used for something more practical, perhaps lights at night. But then he also adds that they would not have been able to see the stars, which I think is a very good point. If there's a lot of unnatural light. I live in Ottawa. We have light pollution out to about maybe 40 kilometers outside of the city limits. 40 kilometers out, you can pretty much see almost the full sky. You get within about, let's say, Manotick, which is kind of the southwestern part of the city limits. You still have light pollution, but you go, let's say, to Kempville, the light pollution's pretty well gone, or at least it used to be. I haven't been there in a while. If they use this for, do you think they would have used this for lights, or would it have been more for practical purposes?
No, I think actually when I approached the design, my opinion is that they went to the trouble to solve a problem they could solve in no other easier way. And a bunch of torches makes an easy way to make light. Why are they going to go to the trouble to level the base? Why are they going to go to the trouble of aligning the thing to the cardinal points of the globe? Why are they going to go to the trouble to drag the granite all the way up from Aswan and haul it up in the air? Every step that they took has to contribute towards the solution, because if there was an easier way to do it, they would have done it that way.
Well, and that's also one of the things that when I spoke to Baval, he brought up that, okay, well, the thing's on basically a cliff, or not really a cliff, but it's on an escarpment that kind of leads right down into the Nile, and even today that would have been very difficult to be able to build on. So if we're dealing with a culture that was very heavily centered around the astronomical, I don't, lights for internal, for internal caves where no light can reach, I could see as a use. You're not going to get much light pollution out of that. When it comes to things like street lights, I don't see that as a possibility to a certain extent, based on the fact that it would detrimentally affect their ability to conduct their astronomical, calculations or observations. So, if the power tool theory is a possibility, and I know that, I've seen Brian Forrester's videos on YouTube for a long time, and Danny, you were actually at the Giza. Did you check out the boreholes in a lot of the constructions around the Great Pyramid, and what did you think about those?
They looked smooth and round, and the only thing I don't get with the drill holes is the helical groove in the drill holes. That we can't seem to replicate that nowadays. It's as if they plunged through the granite an eighth of an inch per revolution. If you tried to do that, though, it would just break the bit and the granite. It looks like maybe it was either a really slow process that somehow etched that pattern after, or heat and high frequency was at play. We use hammer drills to get through granite, no problem nowadays. We use diamond bits too. It's weird. It's definitely strange. Could it be done by hand? I think so. But we haven't replicated that way yet.
An eighth of an inch. You think that could be done by hand?
No. That's what it looks like. It appears they went through the granite an eighth of an inch per revolution. The core sample that Dunn looked at, he spiraled a piece of string around it, and it was perfectly helical. You can't deny it. That's very strange.
And it's going like a centimeter every 4 revolutions. I mean, it's nuts.
Unreal.
Now, what is the... Oh, my goodness, I completely forgot what I was going to say. This is what happens when I'm checking Facebook notifications as I'm trying to ask a question. If they were to build the Khafre and Khufu pyramid as, or even just the Khufu. Let's leave Khafre out of it. If it's just the Khufu pyramid that is supposed to be a power generator, and I know that, some people will say that the subterranean chamber is supposed to be designed as a pulse generator. At the end of the day, it's semantics. A lot of people are saying it generated electricity. Okay, so if it generated electricity, did they use the electricity from the Khufu pyramid to bore the holes, or did they have something to generate that electricity beforehand to bore the holes to build or to cut the stones for Khufu's pyramid? Like it's kind of a chicken and the egg theory question.
Well,
maybe the
why
smallest
think they need
there.
electricity at all?
Yeah. Well, I can actually agree with that.
Okay, well that
I think a changing magnetic field could give everybody light bulbs. You could have maybe had not necessarily a light bulb like we have now, but you could have had an incandescent material. There's so much buried in Egypt that they haven't scratched the surface yet. It's like the oceans. We've discovered 5% of Egypt, maybe.
Now, one thing I'm going to bring up here on the in the Cameron, I'm starting to realize that I don't have the image to its full width here, so you're still going to see my arms flailing around if you're watching on YouTube in the corners. Let's just see here. So this is the dendera light. The dendera. Now, some people will say that this is supposed to be able to represent a lotus, or it's supposed to represent insemination of some kind. For anybody who lives in the Western world or any place that has electronic lights, that very clearly looks like some type of electronic light. Now, most of these chambers do not have any type of scorch marks on the ceilings, which means there were no torches. So how the hell did they carve this in pitch black without causing any noticeable indications that there was open flame in these chambers? That's kind of a big question. Now, this may be related to the pyramid or not. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about electricity generation, that's kind of a big question.
This looks like, this is dendera, right?
Yes, dendera. So, and I'm realizing I actually set the YouTube stream for low latency so that we can, hopefully it's not going to take 30 seconds to switch over, but apparently it still is. The modern, the technology only goes so far. That's kind of the big question is, if we're talking about electricity generation, it had to have been for a purpose. But still, there's the idea of the Baghdad battery. And if you can, if anybody's built a battery out of like a lemon for a high school project and like powered a clock off of it. If you
know what I heard about the Baghdad battery?
What was that?
That somebody had speculated that the reason they were using it was for electroplating coins. They were actually counterfeiting currency.
That's a possibility. It's a possibility that is one of the uses.
There's a motive there.
What was it again? Copper to silver, silver to gold, or something like that, or
something like that, or lead into gold. If we're talking the alchemist side, if I'm not mistaken, there's ways to be able to transmute it. Again, I'm not an alchemist. I'm a symbolist. I'm a philosophical interpreter. I'm not more of the I'm a mental alchemist, not a actual physical alchemist. My philosopher's stone is up here in the mind. So, and that's kind of as far as I'm going to go with that tonight. But still, if we're looking at electricity generation, I know that for Doug, his big thing has been it is a radar generator. So, going from your Danny, from your theory to Doug's theory, how does that connect? And from those connections, from that correlation, we're going to lead off into Doug's to be able to talk about the bigger picture.
Okay, well, Tesla discovered radio. That was proven after he died. Marconi was he had the patent put in Tesla's name then, and they just that it would, in my opinion, it's like Doug's concept is like the top portion of Tesla pyramids. It's the radio aspect of it. And I think if the pyramid made power, that it took the path of least resistance, which was down in the ground. Air is not the greatest conductor. Ground's a lot better. And the whole him talking about a sphere and the resonance of a sphere being utilized is to me it just that pattern presents itself, that the pyramids are connected to ground, that if they rang, the ground would work like an amplifier. That's pretty much it. I think Doug's is the radio aspect of Tesla pyramids. I think he worked out all the math for it.
Yeah, and that again, that math would have been. And I'm just going to show the ladies and gentlemen at home, who, and I'm just going to. Oh man, you make me want to go back to school to learn this stuff. And I'm going to be very frank with you, gentlemen. I was actually very good at algebra and calculus. Unfortunately, in algebra, I was more concerned with ordering pizza to class and reading the newspaper than doing my homework. But I was very good at it. And when it comes to parametric equations, I was, even with chemistry, I was very good at it. Just was really shitty at doing homework. This stuff still kind of makes my mind kind of bend. And that book is essentially the entire rationale behind the research which Doug is about to go into. So again, that's Cycles of the Pyramids. You can check it out on Amazon, or you can go to bigskymap.com. The link is in the show notes.
The system is broken down by subsystem, and then each of those chapters identifies the relevant equations.
If you don't own, what is it called here? Cycle of the Pyramids. It's the first technical guide to the Great Pyramid. I think everybody should own a copy of this if you're into the pyramid, doing any non-tomb theory.
No,
frankly,
you can also. The hypertext is also online at bigskymap.com/cycles.
Now,
just print it.
The next question before we get into this, and I know that this is going to be kind of the crux of the entire thing. The box you sent me with those 3 books came with this little this widget. I'm going to call it a widget, and if people can see
the Metron, yes,
the Metron, and if for anybody can see this at home, I have to get better lighting in the studio. It is a hexagon shape with a hole drilled in it, like this. So 6 sides, and it's sectioned off into 4 separate sections. Each one of these bumps you can see here, that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 3, that's a 4. So just like you'd see on a 4, on a die. So you get the 1 dot, the 2 dot, 3 dots, and a 4. And when I first got this, I opened it up and I messaged Doug. I'm like, Doug, what the fuck is this? So Doug, please, and I know you explained it to me, so please, if you can give the readers at home, or the listeners at home, and the viewers at home, a little bit of a description of what this is.
That is a 3D printed subunit of the builder cubit. The builders used a unit called the cubit, which is a little bit over half a meter. And that cubit is divided into 7 smaller units called palms, one of which you are holding in your own.
So
each of the palms is subdivided into 4 digits, which are enumerated there like a die.
So basically, a cubit would be about, so it's 1, 2, 3. So a cubit would be about this long in total. The subunit of a cubit is a palm, which is this. They call it a palm because it literally fits right in your palm.
Yeah.
And the subunits, which is the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, these subunits of the palm is, again, a...
Those are digits. So there's 28 digits in a cubit.
Okay, so 28 digits. So let's try and put this in a layman's terms. So let's say for meters, it would be 20. To be able to translate this into metric. So if cubits were meters and units were centimeters, there would be 28 centimeters in an Egyptian meter.
Yes.
Okay. Or there would be 28 inches in an Egyptian foot. Or I forget. I can't even do inches to yards, so don't even ask me.
Roughly. Yeah. And it's funny because the units, the cubit and the meter, are actually related. And you're going to like where the story goes, because I thought that was something I discovered independently when I wrote Birthday Pie. And it turns out that Schwaller de Lewitz, no less, discovered that back and published it in the Temple of Man. Thank you, John Anthony West. I would not have gotten that book if it hadn't been for him. And here I am just going through it, and boom, just like everything else, Schwaller just throws it off in a paragraph and doesn't really ever mention it again. But it's there clear as day that there's a very specific mathematical relationship between the meter, which effectively is a unit that relates to the Earth, and the cubit, And it's my belief now that the French did not so much invent the meter back in the late 1700s, but they actually kind of swiped it. When Napoleon took his savants down there, that they found it, they recognized it, and I think up to that point they had a unit called the second pendulum, which was very, very, very close to the meter, and depends a lot on just the gravitational force of the Earth.
Okay. Now,
so that goes back to that
okay,
piece.
So the builder cubit relates to the cycles of the pyramid book, if I'm not mistaken, or is that particular like that particular unit? Now, did you send them to me, or is that actually included with the package?
I'm not sure I understand the question. That was something I printed off a whole bunch of those because
Okay.
They're I actually run a piece of flexible wire through 7 of them at a time, and now I've got a cubit that I can throw around anywhere. My thought was you could actually take that inside to measure things. You could move it around; it'd be flexible. You could actually measure stuff off in the dark because you could actually read the digit indicators off with your fingers. But it was just to get familiar with it. This is a dry, old, dusty unit that nobody really uses anymore. And I wanted to 3D print it to bring it up, to get it into our consciousnesses. This is something that we have to get used to because this was a unit that they were thinking in. Not only are the outside dimensions of the Great Pyramid come out really nice, 440 by 280, but the King's Chamber on the inside comes out really nice, 10 by 20. So the cubit goes back way. Isaac Newton was looking for it. It's something that's been out there for a while. We even have a couple cubit sticks that actually survive from antiquity.
Okay, now for the cubit itself, how does this relate to your work specifically? Not necessarily to the construction of the pyramid, because again, we can go into the the measurements till the cows come home. Why did you decide to? I think I might have already asked that. Like you've already answered this in terms of the semantics, or at least the more aesthetic reasons. How has this helped you with your research?
Oh, it's necessary to get into the heads of the builders. And this was the unit that they would have been using. They would have thought in the cubit first and perhaps in the meter second. Something interesting, which they have this neat little mathematical trick that they work the constant of pi into their units such that they can effectively eliminate it just by switching units. If you're measuring one thing, for example, if I'm making a fence and I'm going to be putting a round piece around that, there's going to be a pi that's going to come into that.
Okay.
You just can't avoid it. It's in the math. And if all of a sudden I just switch my system of units, all of a sudden I don't need to know what pi is. It just drops out automatically just by converting from one set of units to another.
So it's to make their lives a lot easier without having to deal with irrational numbers that they can't necessarily write all out, or the computers can't deal with. Okay.
Exactly. And when you think of like the Apollo program, going to the moon on slide rules, that sort of mathematical efficiency has value.
Now, the second thing that you sent me, and I think it's the most adorable thing, and unfortunately I did not clip off all of the hairs on it. I know this is 3D printed, and it still impresses the hell out of me how you actually got this 3D printed. I have to get one of these. It is a scale model of the Great Pyramid. I know, but the lighting's very bad in the studio. I do apologize. I'm going to get a better webcam. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this pyramid has a series of grooves. Like you've got the axes here, which is supposed to represent the squaring of the circle or the sphering of the cube, as it were. But there's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dots up the side of each pyramid. I don't know if you can see this at home. There we go. That's better. So you can see those 9 dots. Are those significant in any way?
Probably not. It's probably actually an artifact of the model and the printing process. I've got a much bigger one. That one there we go. Yeah, the nature of 3D printing is that when I get smaller to the slice height, then I'm going to get a lot of artifacts out of it.
Okay.
I owe you a better one, Chris. Sorry.
Well, I just expect you're like, oh, I'm sending you something. Okay, like I just kind of shrugged it off. I'm like, okay, you're like, you're going to send me a paper or something that I'd be able to research for the show and go through. And then all of a sudden I get this UPS box or this USPS box that I get handed from Canada Post going, here you are, sir, sign for this. I'm like, well, what the hell? Like, oh, shit, this is from Doug. And I pull it out. It's like there's a unit of measurement in here in a scale model of the pyramid. I got a little bit scared from that, knowing the type of interview this could possibly go as far as technicalities. So I do apologize if we are... knowing you're an engineer, I know tons of engineers, trust me.
Oh, I hope they help. I sent them to you because it's hard to describe. And how much time would I have spent trying to describe that palm to you?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now you've just actually holding it and you showed it to everybody, and now we know exactly what it is.
Let's see if I can actually show this. Once it actually gets... See that there's the palm, and it looks like 4 sides of a dice. Yes, they are bumps on there. Now, how did you get the shape for this model exactly?
It how did I get that? It's just a hexagon that I've extruded and then just put the bumps on there high enough that you can, for tactile feedback.
Okay, so this isn't something that you got out of a book. It's actually...
Oh, heavens, no.
Oh, no, so you just basically said, okay, like, this is the unit of measurement.
Yeah,
I'm going to make it a hexagon and put some bumps on it, and there you go.
I need one of those. The idea, of course, was to make a 3D printed cubit. The palm was just a way to get to the cubit. And there's a picture on the web, the Big Sky Map Facebook page that actually shows the cubit. And the model was really, really close. It was like almost about a millimeter off over the distance of 52 centimeters or so. So it was close enough that I couldn't improve any one of the 7 palms and make it come out any better, at least without a lot of work. So
you know what's really scary? I just measured this. Now, 1 cubit is 4 palms, correct?
1 cubit is 7 palms.
7 palms. Okay, so 4 palms is the length of my arm from here to right there. So if you're looking at the length, like if on your arm are the ridges, like all of the creases. So from this crease at the top from the top of my forearm all the way to the crease at my elbow, on the long side, that's 4 palms. And I'm assuming, and if I go this way, it's 1, 2. Holy shit! My arm length from here to here is exactly 1 cubit. That just blows my mind. My mom told me to not swear in the show unless I actually found something cool. Like, that's actually pretty cool.
And the cubit and the palm, these numbers pop up all over the place. Have you seen the tri-lobed disc in the Cairo Museum? This funny, really thin-walled disc.
It's a flywheel. Yes.
That is 8 palms in diameter, 4 palms in radius. As soon as you start the descending passage in the King's Chamber, Great Pyramid is 16 palms high by 14 palms wide. The unit is ubiquitous. It's all over the place. This was the primary unit that they were using.
Okay. And the primary unit, I've listened to a lot of Randall Carlson. I'm going to give a big shout out to Cameron for introducing me to him, because I listen to Randall Carlson stuff for that's him. Listening to him on Grimerica is the reason I put the show together. That's why we are on the air, was because of Randall Carlson. So the idea that the ancient Egyptians derived the cubit from how the body was actually shaped in terms of proportions on averages. That kind of blows my mind. Like, I could use this palm to literally measure, at least from what I could see, any part of my body in relation to the other, and it would come out based on this, this unit. So, how does this relate to the pyramid? This is the big question. How we're going to start getting back into the technical side of things. How does this little this doodad, this widget, as we call in advertising, how does this relate to the pyramid being a radar transmitter? And so I know however you want to start with that. Let's start from the beginning. But they really occupy 2 different corners in my head.
The cubit was just a means to an end. I wanted to be able to visualize the thing because I know it is throughout the pyramid. But I certainly do most of my mathematical thinking in metrics. I think in the back of Cycles, I actually do show some of the values in the builder units where convenient. But units are units. you can analyze a system using any units that are convenient. This just makes it occasionally convenient to switch from one set to another because I don't have to carry pi around. So anytime I'm making a transition from a linear measurement to a circular measurement, it just falls out naturally.
Okay, now, sorry, continue.
So that's where you think it still has use, like even in modern day. You mentioned that to me once, Doug.
Oh, the qubit?
Yeah.
Well, if they're making pizza, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's a real quick way to look at it. If I make a pizza, and you guys up there might be able to hunt around a little bit, but you can probably find somebody that can make a meter wide pizza. If you have a pizza that is a meter wide, and you're going to take 5 of your buddies, so you're going to have 6 pieces. You're going to need 6 pieces. That pizza that's a meter across has to be divided into 6 even pieces. The arc of crust on any one of those 6 pieces is 1 cubit long. That is the whole circumference of a 1 meter diameter circle is 6 cubits.
Holy shit.
It's effectively a mathematical identity.
Okay, so...
And to me, it's like you're asking the qubit question. I actually commissioned a guy to make me a pizza that big because I actually wanted to see it, and I sent him a 3D printed qubit, which he then wrapped around the arc of tasty crust, and sure enough, it lines up just perfect.
How big was the pizza? It was
1 meter across. Yeah.
So that's
actually I had to find of course we're imperial system here, so I had to find a guy that made 40-inch pizzas. He actually makes the pans himself in North Carolina. And I commissioned him to just go ahead and make one and just shave it off just a little bit. So it's actually a meter and not 40 inches across.
Oh, man. He must have... And how long ago was this?
Oh, heavens, I don't know. It's about a year ago or so. I don't know. The pictures are on the Facebook page.
Okay. Now, getting back to the crust of the issue, I'm trying to make somewhat of a bad pun here. And now I'm hungry for pizza. Thank you. Appreciate that. Why would the ancient Egyptians have created a giant radar dish? Again,
that's a good question.
You had mentioned that it came to finding out how big the solar system is.
Yes.
Please.
Please. Short answer to the question is they're measuring the astronomical unit. The astronomical unit is the average distance from the sun to the Earth. Use this as a physical constant, so then we can scale all the other planets according to them. Venus is about 0.7. Mercury is roughly about 0.4. It wobbles in and out. Mars is roughly about 1.5, and so on and so forth. Let's pretend that we are all astronomers, and we all have our telescopes, and we're all going to try to figure out exactly in the sky where Venus is.
Mm-hmm.
So we're each going to have our logbooks, and we're going to keep track of it, and we're going to make measurements. And when we all get together at the astronomers conference, we're going to find out that none of our measurements agree with each other. This is historical. They just didn't. There was an enormous amount of error when you're making this observation visually. It's just the trouble with it. It's not that our eyes are terrible, but it's just that these things are really far away, and you're not getting a lot of light off of them. You can only measure so well with the human eye. Now, let's switch to radar. If I'm using a radar signal, I know exactly how long the wavelength is. The measurement is very repeatable, and the answer I'm going to get back is going to be a couple order of magnitudes better in resolution than what I can accomplish with my eyeballs. This, historically, is what we did in the 1950s. After World War II, when radar rose up and it was a top-secret military weapon, they built all this stuff really quick. They needed all this radar gear, and the war ended. They had all this stuff still in the boxes, brand new radar equipment, and they would put it on aircraft carriers down in Australia and just literally push it off into the water. And a whole bunch of Australian astronomers went over there and, hey, mate, why don't you go down and get a Foster's, and, we'll push this into the drink for you. And what they did is actually just took the stuff. And so now they've got this state-of-the-art radar gear. What can we do with it? Let's start bouncing it off the moon. Let's start bouncing it off the nearby rocky planets. First off, it was just to see if we can do it. And there's a great story with a researcher named Zoltan Bey who was trying to get the first radar signals off the moon ahead of the United States Army. And he would have done it, except the Nazis kept coming in and blowing up his lab. Every time he'd get his apparatus all set up and ready to go, boom, something would happen and he'd have to relocate. And he did this like 2 or 3 times and lost all this time. So the U.S. Army actually, I think, gets the credit for knocking the first thing off, the radar signal off the moon. Then fast forward another 10 years or so, and the technology has improved to the point where they're now sending off of Venus. Venus represents some real problems because it's covered with clouds, as we know. Our eyeballs are not going to go through that, whereas a radar signal doesn't have any trouble. It'll go right on through and come right on back out. If I can tell you exactly where Venus is, or more or less, exactly where Venus is and how fast it's moving, which is something your eyeballs can tell you how far, roughly where it is in the sky, but it can't tell you how fast it's moving. But if I can measure the Doppler shift off of a radar signal coming back, now I can. And if I can tell you where it is and how fast it's going, then I know where in its orbit it is. And boom, all of a sudden I can improve the resolution in the astronomical unit from, say, on the order of 1,000 to 10,000 kilometers to 10 to 100 kilometers. And I can do it anytime. I can do it over and over again. And as I keep doing the measurement, I'm going to keep resolving my figure. The builders seem to have a fetish for measurement. Everything was very precise, particularly when you look at the Great Pyramid, which, if I'm not mistaken, remains the most accurately aligned building on the planet, even today. It was really important to them that this thing be exactly there, exactly in that point. Why? And my answer to that is because it was a reference system. That was basically the 0 point, not only for a terrestrial reference system, but also for a radar signal. So if I'm going to figure the time of flight for the signal to go out and then come back, I need to know exactly where the signal started from. And that's why I like about Danny's idea that these two are resonating. The receiver pyramid in the middle is actually somewhat attuned to the transmitter because it's vibrating at some low frequencies that the transmitter is putting out.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
So basically, it was a giant astronomical system that they were building.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
What about the theory
with the purpose of improving their knowledge of the solar system?
Sorry, actually, I got cut in. Before you go on, I think I can anticipate this question. Doug here, he's amalgamated so many different pyramid concepts that he's showing how it's a radio telescope, it's tracking the stars, it's also somewhat power plant. He's incorporating Chris Dunn's theory, John Cadman's theory. That's where I think this is truly awesome, and he's really set a precedent for everyone to follow. That's getting into this stuff.
Well, thank you, Danny. And I'd also like to throw in there that talk to Randall Carlson, ask him if the Great Pyramid is a model of the Earth. This is not a secret. People have known this for a long time.
No, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion about that. Like that's not even in question.
So the whole point of Big Sky Map is, well, hey, if it's a model of the Earth, then what about the other ones? How far exactly does that model go? And when you start to look at it as an orrery, that basically you have two scales. A map has one scale. You're looking at a map and you got to figure out where you're going from here to there. It's going to have one scale on that. But an orrery that is a model of our solar system must have two scales, because effectively the sun is the only thing in our solar system. It's all the mass. Everything else is tiny compared to it. It doesn't even show up. So you have to have one scale that tells you where everything is, how far apart. And then you have another scale which relates the sizes of all the objects to each other. And that's what we see here. And the scale factor for the objects, for the Earth pyramid, the Great Pyramid, for the Venus pyramid, for the Middle Pyramid, is the standard 43,200, which people have known for quite a while. Half the number of seconds in a day, the exact number of cycles in a day. If the transmitter is working 24 hours a day, it's going to crank out 43,200 of the steps, which makes it real easy if you're trying to figure out, okay, I need 40,000 cycles to accomplish so much energy buildup. How long does that take? Oh, gee, that's about the better part of a day.
Now,
it's another one of those really neat mathematical tricks that pop into the system.
Holy I'm sorry, I was about to swear again, just to be able to cut in here. You'd mentioned that the middle Khafre's pyramid was the Venus pyramid, which would make the pyramid of, and I'm going to butcher this, the pyramid of Menkaure the Mars pyramid, or the Mercury pyramid.
Correct.
Now, has anybody checked whether, because Earth and Venus are very, very similar in size. Caffrey and Khufu are very similar in size. Caffrey is a little bit smaller. Venus is a little bit smaller.
Yep.
Has anybody checked?
300,000 cubic meters.
Yeah, very specifically think about the volume too, because the encoding is done in terms of volume.
Now, has anybody checked the encoding in terms of volume? With relation to
several times.
Okay.
How many times?
With relation to the other two planets.
Yes.
And what was the outcome of that?
Traditionally, and you're familiar then that of the accuracy of the Earth model, right? That it's really, really close.
Yes.
The Venus model is okay. We typically think that the radius of Venus is about 6,000 what is that? 6,000 kilometers, 6 million meters. That's right, about 6051. And apparently, from what I could see, they were guessing it was somewhere around 6140.
Okay.
I've actually got it kind of digging my notes here. Okay, here we go. 6060, excuse me. Our current guess, at the height of the space age, that is, we have satellites in orbit that are mapping it with radar resolution, is 6,052 plus or minus 1 kilometer.
Okay.
The estimate of the builders was 6,060 plus or minus 140 kilometers.
Which is not too bad.
So the resolution wasn't that good, and it is, the difference between 8 kilometers over the, it's less than 1%.
So again, to be able to confirm, because I can get a little lost in all these numbers, that was for Caffrey's pyramid versus Venus.
Yeah, that's the middle, the Venus pyramid. Yes.
Okay, what about for the? And again, no one knows the name of the third pyramid, so I do apologize.
Yeah, the Menkaure pyramid is interesting. It's the one that doesn't seem to look as finished as the other ones.
It wasn't finished.
Yeah, so it's hard to say. It lines up to somewhere between 84 and 89%. It's not as accurate as the Venus pyramid, but on the other hand, I don't think it was actually serving a functional role, as much as a functional role as the receiver did.
I think it had a local purpose. Something, either, who knows, but...
Okay.
I have some ideas, but there's speculation at this point, so I don't really want to go into them. But the map between Earth is almost exact. The map between Venus is almost exact. The map with Mars is awful darn close.
Oh, here's the thing, is that we all know that Mars is missing a shit ton of mass. And, there is and I'm just going to bring this information up here. Mars divide. I'm going to throw this up on... geological history of Mars, blah 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 blah. Okay, so I should be able to bring this up in a lot. If I had an intern who could actually research this stuff for me, that'd be fantastic. So Mars essentially has the top half of it missing. There is a massive amount of just rock that was blown off the top of this thing. If it's about 84%. Do you think there's a possibility that this catastrophe that had happened on Mars, and this is something that geologically had been found to have happened within, again, off the top of my head, I'm going to be wrong on the numbers, but it's within the last couple of million years. If they're looking at the shape and they maybe have gotten wrong on the mass or wrong on the overall volume, and Mars is farther away than Venus is, do you think that could have accounted for the error or the error in the calculations?
Yeah, it sure could. For that matter, there is certainly some ambiguity as to whether it's actually indicating the Menkaure, that is whether it's indicating Mars or whether it's indicating Mercury, or whether at different points in their orbits it may have been both. There are some other researchers who have also looked at the pyramid alignments, if you will. There's 4 or 5 of us that I can list off my head, are in agreement with the Earth and the Venus mappings. There is the discrepancy comes with where that third one goes. I actually studied it from a mathematical analysis and took a look at where they would be over the course of their entire orbit. the mapping is accurate with Mars no matter where it is. There's the concept of eccentricity in an orbit. They're not perfect circles. They're more like ellipses. So they sometimes are closer, sometimes they're a little bit farther away. The Earth, by and large, the eccentricity is not that bad. Venus, the eccentricity is not that bad. Mercury, the eccentricity is terrible, and so is Mars. So they're both wobbling in and out. So happens with the layout, which is right on the front of cycles of the pyramid there. That lines up with Earth, Venus, Mars over the entire course of all their orbits. It's never not mathematically valid.
Sorry,
if I was to speculate that the third one was Mercury, there are significant portions of Mercury's orbit where the mathematical alignment is not accurate.
Okay, so if this is the case, I'm showing the cycles of the pyramid to cover my ugly face here on the camera. Mankari pyramid is Mars. What you've got here in the front, you've got this is the Earth pyramid. This is the Venus pyramid, and this is the Earth pyramid. And obviously there is a, there is a little bit of a difference. Like this is the outer orbit, but this is earlier in the orbit. So this Venus is trying to catch up with. It's like trying to be able to shave in the mirror. Venus is trying to be able to catch up with Earth in its orbit. Now, there is always the idea that, we've talked about it beforehand, or at least I know that Spencer Cross talked about this with his talk on episode, 27? Go check it out. It was fantastic. Very, very fantastic. He had mentioned that the possibility of the pyramids being multi-use. So we talked about the potential for monatomic gold versus when you guys were in chat and having a really good time while you were in chat. Thank you very much for that, by the way. And the possibility...
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, any time you have a good time in the show and anybody else has a good time in the show, I'm having a good night. But he mentioned that the possibility of multi-use. And I know Baval is stating that the Orion correlation is, it's not disputed. There's also the possibility of the Cygnus correlation. And now we're looking at the
there are
possibility...
certainly people that dispute it. Well, there's probably not any of us on the show tonight.
Well, the thing is that is there a possibility that if you're going to encode... let's try and take a track back here. So these people possibly had rudimentary power tools. Potentially. They could have been doing it with, very basic tools, and it could have taken 100, 200 years to be able to build the pyramid.
Oh, now, okay.
Well, I'm making generalities here. Again, as a layman, I'll
try to make that 1 centimeter in 4, revolutions, no matter how long you take.
The fact is,
there's some artifacts which you just really can't explain with copper chisels and stone 100%. Hammer balls.
Well, exactly. Even though when we had David Roll on, he said, well, there's a possibility that somebody who made one stone or one statue, he literally did that his entire life. Well, it's a possibility. But the fact is that the people who made the pyramids were frickin' geniuses.
True.
They encoded so much into it, whether it's a message to be able to send forward, or whether it was just a matter of them being able to figure out how to do this using the observations from the worlds around them. Now, it's a possibility that all 3 of these correlations are correct, for Cygnus, for Orion, as well as for the solar system. For me, that speaks volumes to the ingenuity of our forebears. I'm like the possibility of ancient aliens. We've talked about it here on the show. Sure, read Ezekiel, people. It's a crazy book. It's either there was aliens or he was on a lot of fucking shrooms. So the possibility that these people could have had some type of advanced technology, or at least been able to figure out how to be able to build this advanced technology, is a lot more and more likely as the days goes on. From all the research and from all of the visitors and from all of the footage that we're getting out of Giza from everyone who visits. Why would they have wanted to spend 100 or so years using a more general but specific metric? Why would they want to spend 100 years to build a pyramid and maybe another 100 years to build another one so that they could measure the size of the solar system? That seems a little bit preposterous, not really preposterous, but seems a little bit fantastical to me, considering that we will build electronics that will start the construction process in, in 1 year, and it'll be up in space within another 5 years.
Okay.
Why? What purpose would it have been? Why would somebody be able to devote their lives and devote their entire kingdom's resources to build a machine that could send out signal to different parts of the solar system to find out how big it is? What's the purpose?
Because if you don't know where something is, you can't hit it.
And why would they have wanted to hit it?
Because our planet gets hit by large space rocks all the time. And if I know where they are and they're far away, all it takes is a little tiny nudge applied once a day over the course of a couple years, and I will push it from a dead center hit off into a near miss. And in space, a near miss is a good miss.
So we're getting on to more of the actual functions of the thing. And this is a possibility.
Okay, the rocks that's not subject to question. Just talk to Randall Carlson or Graham
Oh,
Hancock
no,
about that.
God, yeah.
And if you spend any time on planet Earth, you start to see them falling. So no doubt the builders knew them as well. Now, so these rocks are falling just as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Here are your options as a society. You can have absolutely no chance of deflecting these bolides, or I can give you a chance at deflecting the bolides. Which would you take?
Oh, I would take deflecting the bolides for 1,000 there, Doug.
Yeah. Yeah, but in order to know where to hit them, you have to know exactly where they are because space is big. And having measurements of the solar system done to visual resolution is not sufficient. We sent probe after probe, went zipping right on past Venus. Back in the space age, before we had the radar-derived astronomical unit, zing, Mariner, zing, right on past. As soon as you get that number, you can actually, and they did, upload that information to the computer on its way there, and bam, locks right into orbit.
Okay, so what would have nudged the rocks off course? Is the pyramids themselves? Would they have been sending out like?
Oh, just budge them. All you have to do is just hit them with a little tiny boost.
Okay, then what would have been that?
If I'm not interested in the radar signal coming back, if I'm sending a signal off of Venus, I'm doing it because I'm actually anticipating a signal back. It's going to be very small compared to the one that I sent out, but I'm waiting for it. If I don't need a signal back, then I'll just go ahead and up the gain, and it's a transit radio telescope. Every time the Earth spins around on its axis, it comes to bear on the target again, whether the target is the moon or the Venus or whatever it happens to be aimed at. And all I need to do is every time around when the Earth brings me to bear on whatever is coming at us is just give it a little push.
Okay, but what would have been the... Okay, let me rephrase the question. If we're talking about the pyramid as a radar transmitter, to be able to find the size of the pyramids or the size of the solar system with relation to the pyramids so that they can find out not only where the planets are, but where potential space rocks are. Even if you can give something a little nudge over a long period of time, what would have been used to give that nudge? Is it the pyramids or something else?
Oh, the microwave signal. The radar signal itself, the burst of photons carry energy with them. This is similar on a much slower scale than a light sail. This is not controversial physics.
Not at all.
The idea is that it's going to be easier for us to just actually go out there, spray paint the side of an asteroid, and let the sun's photons move it out of the way. But, if I am a culture that's just very proficient in dealing with stone and water and sound, perhaps this will be the solution that I'll use.
So essentially what you're saying is that the pyramid, by imaging where these rocks were, these bolides were, with the pyramid acting the way that it was, just turned on and doing its thing, it is, in essence, finding out where they are by receiving the signals back in Khafre. And again, we're going to get on to Khafre in a second. But just by sending these signals out there, even that signal would help to protect the Earth based on kind of the same principles as one of those off mosquito repellent fans that just sends out these pheromones. Is that kind of a similar analogy, or am I way off the mark here?
It's actually, if you were saying like a fan or something, that you were pushing the mosquitoes away from you.
Well, the same idea.
As they're trying to get close to you, I've got a fan in my hand and I point it at them so that I'm pushing it so that they end up flying right past me instead of right into me.
Okay, so that's kind of the idea. At least there's some type of field that it the X-rays or the you know that signal sent it bounces off of those bolides, and even nudges it just like whether it's a part of a centimeter, whether it's a millimeter or less. After enough of a while, those distances add up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's do that every day for 12 years.
Okay, no. Once the machine was turned on, the pyramid was turned on. Was there a way to shut it off, or was it just like a constant? Okay, well, that's the thing. Like if
you could actually control the reaction. I would love to, in our science discussion in April, if we get the chance, I'd love to talk with John Cadman about the exact positioning of the valves. I know he has interesting ideas on it, and so do I, but I think it was actually under full control. They could actually adjust the reaction. They could fire the signal off with sub-second resolution. It's very straight. It's an incredible technology, but they're thinking about what they're doing. They're thinking about the problem in a different way. Their solution is valid. It will work. It's certainly a way to do it. We build our stuff out of metal because we're proficient in working with metal as a material. They were proficient in working with stone. That's what they could shape. That's what they could build with. And so that's what they did. But the physics are the same either way.
Okay, now for
certainly the rocks are probably the same too.
Now for Khafre's pyramid, like for me, and again, I've been focused on my efforts on the Khufu pyramid, as most other people. How does Khafre's pyramid factor into this? How is the design different? How did it work as a receiver? And what the hell was it doing there? Because no one talks about it.
I haven't even persuaded you that the transmitter works, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I haven't even told you. I mean, Danny's talked about his, but I haven't even told you how the microwave signal is generated or anything. And if I can't convince you that it can actually generate the output signal, there's no sense getting into the receiver. And that's the way to get around my next book. The receiver is actually my next book.
Well, let's go. Well, let's go into your theory, and I know that. What's the best way to be able to put this? I'm up for anything, and especially with this show, especially since new knowledge is so sexy and so entertaining. I am open to the possibility that it was this type of device because you're making a very rational argument, and based on all the conversations that I've had over the last couple of months, it's plausible. Like I don't see any reason why unless I'm actually there. So, man, go ahead and tell me how. Go ahead and tell me how it works.
Can we get that technical drawing up, the one that I was showing you earlier? Because I want to be able to.
The 3D one.
Yes, the 3D one.
Okay. Give me a second here. I just gotta
with the orthographic drawings.
Okay, so the display capture 1, image 1. That is. Just gonna transition here. Okay, so that is that image. That's the Dendera, and I'm just gonna change that out. That's display 2.
My mic's been muted for the last 2 minutes, or 2 minutes, 20 minutes.
We've been talking about you, Danny.
I've been saying things. You guys didn't say anything.
We actually
just didn't notice my mic was muted.
Well, we figured how to make it like a Philosopher's Stone, and we were, hoping to be able to get your opinion on that. But unfortunately, you were not online.
I was going to ask Doug, what do you think about just like the pyramids as GPS or just communication devices around the globe?
Sure, yeah. One of the, if I hadn't gone into the astronomical unit, I'd love to go into them using it as actually a global communication system.
That's very
use the signal at a much lower level to bounce it off the moon. You use the moon as a communication satellite. You could signal literally around the world that way. So long as the moon and the Earth's position is in the right place. And I have no idea what's on the far end of the signal. Maybe that's what obelisks are used for. I don't know. But there's certainly sufficient power to bounce a signal off the moon and receive it somewhere else on the Earth. This was also done back in the 50s. They used to, I think they would send out transmissions from Australia and pick it up in London and New York, using the moon as a communication satellite. We've always got one built in. Do we have the other drawing?
That's the flow drawing
one that I gave you in the Skype.
Let's see. Okay. That was the other one. Okay. My mistake. Gotta bring that up. That one. Yes, we do somewhere.
Gotta let the cat in.
I'll load that up while you're doing that. Let's see, that's display capture 1, video image 1. If you'd like to be able to audition for as an intern for the Den of Lore, please do send your resume in to info@denoflore.com and help us manage our images. Local applications only, and there may be scotch. So we have this image on screen now. This is the technical drawing, which is the hydroelectric multispectral transmitter diagram, which is not only 2D, but also has a 3D diagram with it, and it is absolutely fantastic. Did you develop this yourself?
Yes, I did.
Is your cat?
That is actually the 3D CAD model that I use to actually lay the systems out. I just basically took screenshots from it from different directions and then composited those all into a larger tech drawing.
Okay.
Now because this one's good because we can actually see the subsystems in this one.
Okay. Now let's start with the process and bring me through this. And I know that it is quite in depth. You've got the legend at the bottom that says you've got your color and legend. So if I'm not mistaken, black or dark, whatever that is earth, blue is water, yellow is air, red is fire, other red is light, orange is signal. And for the legend, blue is impulse, green is regulator, other red is electrolysis positive, and other green is electrolysis negative. I'm going to try.
I was so hoping. I wanted to get the anode and cathode question from Alex. I really did. You can ask Danny. Isn't it true?
What?
Yeah.
Where is Alex?
Okay, he's supposed to be here.
He told me like I'll be here. Ask me where the anode and the cathode are.
I'm going to. You know what? Let's. Here's the thing. I have no messages from him. You know what I'm going to do, guys? Give me a second. You want to play a joke on him? You want to take a quick break? I'll call him right now. Give me a second. I'll see.
We figured out where the anode and the cathode are.
He might be in dinner, but we've done prank calls on the show before, so
basically,
fine.
we're on a roll.
Good enough.
The hydrogen is produced and accumulated in the Grand Gallery. The oxygen is accumulated in the King's chamber. They're kept isolated until they're ignited, and then the reaction combines. It drives the King's chamber into piezoelectric acoustic resonance. That develops an FM radio signal, which is then coupled into a microwave horn, which then feeds into a waveguide, which comes out the south side of the pyramid, unlike the soul of the pharaoh.
Awesome.
Sorry, it's getting a little bit hot in the den. I had to crack a window.
Nice.
So that is quite in-depth, and I'm going to be including all of these images, the last 2 or 3 in the show notes. Normally we just incorporate it as a PDF, but I'm actually going to have it in the show notes on denoflore.com when we release this episode on Sunday. Now, I know Nick of Time has asked lower power requirements if you bounce off the atmosphere, better audio fidelity. Is there any veracity to that? If you're using the moon as a communication satellite?
Not even.
Well, it's got to get through the atmosphere if you're going to hit the moon with it. But if you wanted to do it as just a FM radio, for example, it's got a 41 megahertz transmitter built into it. You could probably use that at sufficient strength just to. That frequency goes pretty far.
Okay. And it's kind of like a short wave. You can get communications from halfway across the planet if it's nighttime. But if the sun's up,
conditions vary. Sure.
Well, here's the interesting part. And I'll prove this. There is a cottage that my wife and I go to with the family every summer. It's called Christie Lake. It's about an hour and a half southwest of Ottawa, in Perth. Beautiful place, like great during the summertime. It's nonstop drinking. You have fun. It's cottage time. So there are certain parts of this cottage area. There's a hill where our cottage is, and then kind of like a sloping hill down towards the rest of the cottages. And you can't get cell signal down the hill. The cell tower is that far, especially when the sun is that powerful during August, and July in Ottawa is very humid. In August, it is very hot, very dry heat, and that's because the sun's stronger in August than it is in July here. During nighttime, though, you can get cell signal pretty much anywhere, so the sun's going to interfere quite a lot in any type of radio transmission. And it's the same thing when you're dealing with, shortwave or with FM or AM. Nighttime, because the sun is on the other side of the planet, it's going to block a lot of that solar radiation. So the moon's going to be up in the sky, and the moon is visible for certain parts of the day, and it's going to be at a certain height. But for the most part, if you're using an omnidirectional massive antenna or to send that signal out, you could theoretically bounce it off the moon, and it can be received, on a different part of the planet where there's line of sight.
Yes.
So
it's already been done.
Of course it has. It's part of how we, during when I was a youngster, as it were, my parents were getting a shortwave transmission from Croatia, which was being broadcast overnight. What would have been the purpose of using it for that purpose? Like, do you see any type of radio transmitter use during this age?
Oh, heck, I thought Danny's idea of a GPS system was really nice. The whole idea of trying to compute that goes back to the sailing days when they were trying to, it's kind of easy to figure out your longitude, but not so easy to figure out your latitude. Wait a minute, I got that backwards. It's easier to figure your latitude, but not your longitude, how far east or west you are. You need to develop a reference clock in order to do that, and some guy won some money prize for coming up with an accurate clock. So you could set your clock along with the reference clock in London, and then head off into the ocean, and then every day at noon you can tell where you are because your clock is still right. So if you had something that was regularly delivering radio bursts into the atmosphere, pick something once a day, once an hour, or once every 2 seconds. I don't know, pick something. That's a reference. And if you're anywhere else on the planet and when those references are coming, you can use them the same way that the mariners used to.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm having another holy shit moment. So I'll say holy shit again. Well, I'm doing it for my mom because she said, don't swear so much on the show. I'm like, that's where we're making our name. Come on. I can swear.
That's okay. It's not the rule.
So I'm just going to drink a lot of scotch. I'll be fine. The notion of longitudes, and if you've ever read a Graham Hancock book, and shout out to Graham, I know you're working hard on your next one. You need to be for a lot of the maps that were used to create the Paris map, to be able to get that type of accuracy, you need longitudes. So the idea of a GPS system, quote unquote, of sorts, or some type of so some type of reference, like even if it's a boop, boop once an hour, once a second, or some type of constant
every day at noon.
Time, every day of noon. Like if the signal's being sent out to the moon, you just you strike the pyramid with like a hammer, and it just sends this wall sound out once an hour. When you hear that sound, you're fine. You could create the longitudes from that, and this could have been created as early as 2400 BC, 2600 BC, or as late as or as late as 10,000 BC.
Yeah, if not sooner, sure.
So that is a different aspect of something that's kind of bugged me to how the hell could they have gotten those longitudes? And I know
there's an answer for you.
Well, exactly, because even Graham Hancock has stated that the technology that could have been around during Zep Tepi the first time, as he likes to be able to say, I can't do the accent, or during the time of Atlantis, or that ocean civilization that mapped the entire known world during when 10,000 years ago, before a comet slammed into the North American ice sheet. That would have been a perfect way to be able to do it. How without creating a mechanical, you can create a mechanical small clock, but why not have it as a transmitter? But then you go back to the idea of why the hell would you spend 120 years building it, or 100 years building it?
Oh. Well, that has value to the society, though, and if you are, we're an impatient culture. Oh, come on, it's always checking our emails. We're caught up with activity. I like that idea you were given earlier about no light pollution. The builders. Once this is a subjective, my opinion only. I think we're just very patient people. I don't think just because we're excited and always in a hurry, I don't think that means they were. And if something takes 100 or 200 years, let it. I don't think they really thought on that time frame.
Another note too, or like not just light pollution, but if you didn't have like the current grid noise or just the current noise in general, like when the power goes out, everything is so quiet.
Audio
I
note.
think the ancients must have heard the sounds of the
Everything.
earth. A granite mountain would be like a massive speaker, and like they could have potentially heard the earth rumble, the lightning strikes very clearly, and maybe realize that a resonant cavity could have been utilized.
I used to throw like raves way back in the day, and we used to have this group of kids called, well, at every single rave. And if you've ever been to a rave, for anybody who's listening, at any point during the late 90s or early 2000s, you're always going to have your speaker fuckers who, though there are those kids who are high off their goddamn rockers, who are going to go near the 30,000 watt speaker stacks for whatever reason and just stand next to it and just feel the sound. Now, it's also because they're on MDMA and their entire their entire nervous system is racked up to like 11. So yeah, they can feel the sound, they can see the music, and for them, it's like the most blissful thing you'll ever see. I'm not saying that's like to the extent of the Egyptians, but again, if you get a speaker that is 42 stories tall, that is going to be pretty goddamned euphoric when it's turned on. Now, how would they have turned it off? That's a good question.
Easiest way: shut the water off. Close the main gate in the moat. Just stop the water going into it.
Okay.
Now it's going to have to cool off if it's been running from that point. But as soon as you cut the water going down into the, the water falling down the descending passage, it doesn't work anymore. You could also block it up. John Cadman suggests that the control valve was probably located at the Sphinx, and I agree with him on that. So if you could block off the water from exiting on the other end. And I did want to, Danny, can you throw in your little, the natives bouldering up the subterranean chamber story?
Oh, yeah. So the indigenous local teaching there, and this is right from Youssef, is that the subterranean pit was rumbling and making loud noises. And the locals, however many years ago, long time ago, obviously after Al-Mamun entered the pyramid, they filled it in. Mm-hmm. To stop to stop, that they were scared of a demon coming out, and so that's why it's filled in right now.
What date would that been?
I can't remember.
Moon was in the early 1800s.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah.
1800s? No, it was like 600 AD or something.
800.
Like that. 800 AD. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this makes a little bit more sense now. So, one question I've been asked by a couple of people, and I'm going to bring this up from the Den of Lore Facebook page. Check it out, facebook.com/Den of Lore. I actually got a good question from a listener, and I'm going to try and bring this up here as a message. Do I actually have my notifications? Sorry, I'm one of those guys who I'll actually say exactly what I'm doing, and this is probably from the many days that I worked at Bell, where they're like, you have to be able to describe to the clients what you're saying, because it gives them more trust. And I'm like, motherfuckers, you're stealing money from them, and you're probably going to lay me off in like 2 months, and you want to talk about trust? Okay. Trust us. I'm like, I don't trust anybody who outsources jobs over, like, oh God. I'm not even going to get into that. That's more the politics side in the business. But the worst part is that the internet that's actually most reliable for this show is Bell. Come on. Oh God. I feel so dirty. I swear to God. Let's see here. So it's message. It's Saturday. Tuesday. So let's see here. This was actually quite. That's March 11th. Messages. Oh, there we go. The idea of the pyramid was actually brought to me by Stephen King, who wrote me on Facebook. And we asked a bunch of questions back and forth, and in all honesty, some of them I thought were actually pretty good. I just didn't have the answer for them at the time. But he had asked, what would be easier, to be able to rebuild it or to repair it? And if you were going to repair it, how would you do it?
Gotta figure it would be easier. Oh man.
Yeah,
repair
that's a good
it.
one.
I'll go with repair it.
Okay.
I'll go with repair it.
Unless we used concrete to build it, then we could do it very quickly.
You
geopolymers.
still have to account for the settling. It takes time for concrete to cool, to solidify.
Yeah,
There's
say
still
5 years.
stones solidifying in Hoover Dam, right? They had to run cold water through it to get it to cool off.
And they even tried to stop that. That's right, building in big blocks. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just carving them. But given that in order to rebuild it, you would have to take everything off that's already there. And there's so much that's built into the base, for that matter. Danny and I were just talking about it, that the base itself is a construction marvel. I mean, ignoring the pyramid altogether. Interfacing with bedrock is a layer of limestone that interfaces with a layer of basalt. And then they put the pyramid on top of that. And these stones that are in the underlayers are cut with 8 sides. They look like they're cut with a machine, and they fit, and they haven't moved in thousands and thousands of years. We can't build a floor these days. Yusuf was talking that the Department of Antiquities can't put in a new floor that doesn't crumble, and there are people just walking back and forth over it after 10 years. And these stones are in place like they've been since the thing was on. They're built to resist vibration, which is not earthquake vibration. They're clear about that.
They the blocks, the way they fit together is strange. It's like as if they almost molded them together. But from my own, when I seen them in person, there was fossils in the rocks that make the pyramids. And
it's limestone.
You don't make so the concrete geopolymer stuff for if you pour a limestone block, there's gonna be no fossil in it. You had to start with, it's an aggregate, and there wouldn't be any fossils in it. But there's fossils everywhere, and so that the fact that they put the blocks together with the weird shapes, homogeneously, that's it's just really strange. How'd they do that?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if we're dealing with limestone, limestone's a sedimentary rock, if I'm not mistaken. So, we're talking about the buildup of a shoreline or water depositing, silt and fossils of troglodytes and God knows what over for an extended period of time, and then it solidifies. Once the water recedes, it dries out, and all of a sudden you've got this rock, and it could have been 20, 30 feet down, what have you. So the idea of I'm sorry, Jared is talking. Just said something funny in chat here. He's saying it's like, Chris, you're not gonna get laid off from this gig. I'm like, I could run out of money. He's like, I've got a few pair of old socks you could sell. Thank you, Jared. Much appreciated. Lint is good. Dryer lint is good. We'll make a giant ball. We'll roll it around the earth, and we'll collect as much money as we can find from other people's couches. Where was I going with this? The idea of this type of rock is that, as proof is, there was a flood at the pyramids. Okay, when the last time there was a flood that high, the pyramid would have been encased in its own encasing stones. The encasing stones didn't come off until about 1400 latest. Between 1300 and 1400, they started to get removed to build the rest of Cairo as it is now, like the ancient Cairo from the 1300s on. So any of that limestone would have been tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years old to be able to produce fossils, to produce that stone. We're talking ancient stone. That's basic geology. So
yeah, they took the stone right from the plateau, right next to the pyramid.
I know, most people look at that type of stone and say, okay, well, the fossils are proof of some flood that was surrounding the pyramid for an extended period of time. No, that is those fossils take a long time
unless they
to
made
produce.
Concrete, and then the
the concrete would have removed the fossils. It would have actually made it homogeneous.
I'm saying unless the whatever crustaceans or whatever the creatures were in the concrete, and then it's so old that they eventually became fossils. But that's not the case.
Well, I mean, the base of the thing was surrounded in water, so it's not going to be unusual to find marine creatures.
That's very true. And from what we can tell too, we're just looking at a lot. I personally had just seen a lot of surface. Just the limestone surfaces had fossils in it. I didn't cut a limestone in half, or the block in half. Sorry. So, obviously.
Okay. So the next question that would be a good one to ask: if they shut off the machine, and they could start the machine, at what period did the machine break down?
What would break down over
The
time?
cataclysm.
Sorry, if it was this radar shooting, planetarium producing, jet flying, lady kissing, machine. Shout out to Ric Flair. When did this machine break? When did it stop working as intended?
It blew up.
The pyramid blew up.
Yeah, we see the damage in it today. Something lifted those 70-ton girders, which are over top of the king's chamber, and moved them over. The scorching is noticeable on the inside. There's no. Well, that was caused by an earthquake. Well, there's no earthquake damage anywhere else in the thing.
What do you think about the salt systems showing a slight shift in I think it was the southwest corner, causing that cracking in the king's chamber? What do you think about that? So that would have been an earthquake.
Oh, but they blamed that on an error in the design.
Oh, that's right too. Yep.
And I don't go forward with any of that. Sorry, no. The subterranean chamber was not an error, and then they decide they're going to bury in the queen's chamber. Then that's an error. Then they decide they're going to bury in the king's chamber. No.
I meant
to be able to support bullshit for error. Direction to that subterranean chamber is basically bang on. It's like they could have shot you could shine a laser pointer down that shaft and it will hit the bottom. So that was not a mistake. To be able to support your statement, I agree with you.
No, I'm
sorry, Danny. Did I miss your point?
Yeah, sorry. I meant the king's chamber had a shift in it that caused the cracking, a shift in its weight, so it couldn't support the beams above it, and that shift caused the cracking through all layers.
Well, that's their hypothesis, I suppose.
Okay, now why would
they don't imagine the thing as having a reactive center that's exploding as part of its design?
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, obviously.
Wouldn't the support structure over the king's chamber have been a design flaw if it is that easily like we're talking about explosions going off the king's chamber here? Mm-hmm. Why the hell would they have put the support structure above the place where there are going to be giant fucking explosions? Like that just seems ridiculous.
To shake.
That's keeping the top from blowing off. I run those calculations in cycles.
Okay, well, wouldn't it have made more sense to you put a support structure, you encase the king's chamber, and then let's say 20, 30 feet above that, then you start the support structure?
The granite leaves are all the relieving chambers. Apparently, they're not relieving chambers. They're just a big stack.
Yeah, they don't relieve anything at all.
It's just a stack that leads to the ceiling. It looks like there was a modern, like they put some concrete in above the last layer. For some reason, it looks like it's modern. Actually, it's similar to the gypsum that they apparently repaired the Grand Gallery with. I think that same material was used in the top chamber for some kind of repair as well. But no, it's not the ceiling. The ceiling's not supporting anything. It's supporting everything beyond the king's chamber. The king's chamber isn't pushing against the ceiling at all. It's not touching it.
Okay.
Yeah, let me follow up with one more.
I actually think it's touching, but it's not supporting the weight of the king's chamber.
Okay, so essentially, what you're saying is that the relieving chambers aren't actually relieving chambers. They're not doing much of anything. So why would they have been there?
They make noise.
Yeah, to shake.
Okay, and again, for that shaking, what the shaking was to be able to produce the microwaves, X-rays?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, if you see it on the technical diagram, I just have it labeled as acoustic output. It just tells you when the thing is actually firing.
Okay, so let's see here. So basically, the only reason those chambers were there was literally to be able to know the machine was on.
No. If that was the only purpose, it wouldn't have to be that fancy. And you wouldn't want, 41, 42, 43 of them arranged in.
And they're the largest blocks in the entire pyramid.
That we know about, yeah.
Actually, we're not even entirely sure that it's all in granite, too. Suzanne Moore actually pointed out to me that the one stone, even after it was cleaned, was very black. And it could have been a diorite. And so that is very interesting. to know that it might not be an entirely granite chamber.
Okay, so even at this point, again, I'm sorry, guys, for seemingly busting your balls. I was actually that was the second question. That was busting your balls. This is me trying to be able to figure out like now we're on to something. Like this is some sitting down, drinking scotch, thinking shit here, and this is what the show's all about. So let's try and figure this out here. What the fuck? Okay, those chambers are there, and I'm trying to think. Like they're 40, 50 tons each, like 70. massive. Not just a block of stone. This is a beam of solid granite that they dragged from 50 kilometers away, and they have. Looking at this technical drawing again here,
Actually, again, that's just speculation.
Just speculation.
We don't know that it came from Aswan.
Okay,
we don't know 100%. So it doesn't line.
Well, okay,
doesn't line up.
They weren't local, that's for sure.
So it's granite. It's solid stone, and it's not as a relieving chamber, and it's above a place that had explosions. And they lugged how many layers are there? 4?
5, I think.
5 layers.
Yep.
So 5, and it's how many across again? It's 6 or 8 across.
It varies.
So it varies.
Each layer is different.
So let's make an estimate here. I'm going to bring up my calculator here, and the listeners at home are going to be like, oh my God, they're going to figure some shit out here. Like, yes, we're going to try and figure some shit out here. So let's say about 40 tons per block times 5 layers. So that's 5 layers. So that's 200 tons if it's one block. Now let's say if there's 8 across, so it's 8. That is okay. So let's try this again. So 8 times 40 is 320. So each one of those beams would be 300, or each one of those relieving chambers would have been 320 tons. 320 tons just by itself. Times 5, 1,600 tons.
Plus the beams between those two.
Plus the beams between those.
Add another 8 beams.
So that's So let's say 25 times 8 times 6. So did I do that right? So it's
it's heavy.
25 times 8 times. How did I get this? So 45 times 5 times 6. So it's around like 1,400 tons. 1,500 tons. That is a fuck ton of weight. And I'm saying that in using that term "fuck ton" because that is 1,350 tons, a fuck ton of weight.
Yeah, it's a scientific unit.
That is a scientific unit.
We all know what it means.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell would they have put 1,350 tons worth of solid granite in that configuration above a place that had explosions to be able to
keep the top from blowing off? It needs to be that heavy with, you've got somewhere between 1 and 10 atmospheres inside.
Then why not make it? Why not make solid granite? Why not make it one solid piece, or send it in blocks? If you're making blocks like one cubit, like several cubits by several cubits, and make an actual.
Well, let's go ahead and make it even more confusing. They're finished smooth on the bottom, but they're left rough on the top, and not only left rough, but it looks like somebody's gone in there and tuned them. They've carved pieces out of this one, but not out of that one. They've scooped a little bit out of this one, but not out of that one. Looks like somebody was up there tuning it, and you could make an argument that maybe they're actually dampening vibrations as they're building the thing up. They're going to have the thing in partial operation as they're testing it, as they're building it to make sure everything works. And they could be canceling out vibrations at that point.
And gentlemen, I do have a correction actually from John Cadman. Fuck tons of granite. Yeah. Fuck tons of granite. Thank you, John, Mr. Cadman.
That is appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah.
Just for the clarification, that is good to know. So now we've got a specific on that metric.
Yeah.
This is the idea.
A unit of that times pi too.
Okay, now, I'm going to be spoiling a bonus episode that's going to be coming out on Sunday. So I was originally going to release it next Friday. I'm releasing it Sunday. It's going to be episode 31. This is actually an impromptu conversation I had with Robert Bivol. And this was the same day it was last Friday that I called up, and I'm like, okay, Robert, we've got Stephen Meyer on the show. And I love that, Stephen, he's a good guy, good sport. But he does not like your Orion correlation. Did you want to be able to rebut? And he sends me his Skype. Is like, give me a call, And literally all he was going to do was just to tell me he's not going to give me a rebuttal because it's been done to death. He's been doing it for 25 years. It's been proven, like in his eyes, correct. He doesn't need to rebut anything. People are going to throw shade his way, and he doesn't have to do anything about it. So he has actually postulated some very interesting ideas about, and oh my God, sorry, John Cadman. And I quote, and John, I'm gonna quote you on this. I'm gonna make you back it up. And I'm reading. I'm
Don't
again.
read the chat, people.
Steven is a good sport. I have nothing against Steven personally, but I'm reading from John Cadman. Stephen Myers dash douchebag. I'm gonna leave it at that. Just leave it at that. That is from John Cadman himself. If you're putting it in chat, you know it's gonna be right on the show. You've been here for 2 hours. You know I'm gonna read shit.
That's just a correlation, though.
That is, correlations don't exist, especially the Bethlehem correlation. Oh fuck! Oh my God! Don't even get me started on that. And apparently he said John Cadman, fuck him personally. So there's some shade that is being thrown here, and if there's gonna be any type of discussion, I want to be able to have a John Cadman, Stephen Myers throwdown. Like that would be one of the highest rated shows of the year.
It would end in 30 seconds.
Well,
yeah, have them bring working models.
Well, fuck that. If it's ending in 30 seconds, let the people watch me drink scotch for 2 fucking hours. I don't give a shit. I want to see that happen without causation, as Denver Michaels edited in. So the big no, and I digress. The episode being released on Sunday, Robert Bivol postulated a few very interesting ideas, which I'm not going to go too deep into because I want you to listen to the episode, about the fact that the pyramid itself could be something more than everything that we are talking about. It could be machine, it could be something else. But the idea of sending signals somewhere, the idea that the pyramid is a puzzle to be solved. There are so many mysteries in this fucking 46 story pile of stone that they just placed there for no apparent fucking reason that we can discern. There's tons of theories, but no one knows for sure. And the only thing we've been able to discern is that the fact that there is high mathematics encoded in the fucking thing, there is a message to be sent forward in time. Now, if you've got people who are sending a message forward in time, and making the microphone bounce because I'm so into this right now, think of it this way. The pyramid is a puzzle that is based on a technological level. And I'm going to put this is what you need, why you need to listen to this episode I'm releasing Sunday. It is free. Get it on iTunes. I'm going to post it on the YouTube channel. You need to be at a certain technological level to be able to unlock certain secrets. Like the doors at the top of the Queen's Pyramid and how they were closed. They stuck steel rods up there, and they knew that there was a door, but they couldn't see up there. We sent a robot up there in the 90s because we had the technology to make something that small with a fucking camera to send up that pyramid. Now, think about it this way. If you are going to be able to build something that is the most technologically advanced thing you're ever going to build or ever could be built, based on its designs and dimensions, for no particular use, as a monument. And things like muons. Doug, do you know that muons are like a recent discovery?
Sure.
Okay. So,
well, sort of. I mean, they're elementary particles. They're not really new, right?
Well, they're not really. Well, they're not.
They're scanning the pyramids with muons now.
Exactly.
Aren't they?
This is a technology that has not been around since the mid 2000s.
I accidentally kicked silt all over them by accident when I went into the Queen's Chamber. Actually, a bunch of my friends did too. We felt terrible.
About going into the Queen's Chamber?
Yeah, when we were in there, there was the muon scanners in the it would be the southwest corner. They were also in the tunnel through the niche, the Queen's Chamber niche. There was a set behind a metal gate. Once everybody had stirred up all the dust in there, it had coated the tops of those. They looked like basically aluminum 1 foot or 18-inch squares, and they were those are the muon catchers.
Okay.
And we actually kicked dirt all over it. It was awful. We felt terrible. Hopefully, didn't screw it up.
Oh shit. Well, yeah, I'm gonna. I can't edit this part up because it's a live show. So
I'm hoping that's not an international crime or something.
Yeah, I hope not
may,
either,
It
but-
may be, but you know, I don't know where Doug lives. Or sorry, I don't know where Danny lives, so they can't. You know,
Yeah,
where is this
Danny,
man?
Danny? Who's Danny? Yeah,
Yeah,
never heard of him.
Danny, I know a DK. I know some guy who's been some
Oh, shit.
places and talked about some Teslas and pyramids, but I don't know where he lives. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Now, the idea that there is technology you need to be able to get to learn the secrets of the pyramid, and that the people who built it knew that you would need certain technology or certain abilities to get there. They maybe they would not know the technology you would need, but they said they have to be able to get to a level. It's like we're gonna put this door at the top of a 200-foot shaft that goes at like 45 degrees upwards, and let you motherfuckers figure this out and see if you can see if you can actually find out.
I think it was just a vent.
Well, it's a
I think it was
possibility. It's a
It was
possibility.
just a vent to vent some pressure so that the whole thing doesn't explode.
Okay, well that's a possibility. But I'm saying is that there are features in the pyramid that we don't know. So what else is there? Like how far do we need to be able to progress to be able to find out more from this pyramid?
Well, I'm not taking away anything from what Doug's done. It's absolutely incredible.
Keep it
But
civil, guys. Please keep it civil.
So, yep. So from the power generation perspective, we would need a continuous output, and I think that the granite was just made hot to stay hot continuously, and to continuously generate DC, and that most of the design is just very simple. It's just to pump water in, get some gas out, burn the gas, get the heat, use the heat, and modulate that frequency. And that's just my own take, though. But I think that without saying that something just points to the stars or anything like that, I think that makes way more sense to just say that it's just an air channel, it's just a water channel, it's just making gas, and it's just burning gas.
Well, pointing at a star is enormously useful when you're building it, because you can float water inside the shaft and keep the starlight reflected in the center.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I mean, it just so happens you just pick the one that you're aiming at. I'm not sure it has some, that would be a religion or a magic, wouldn't it? And Danny and I like no aliens, no religion, no magic.
Well, and again,
that's my slogan.
You guys have listened to this show for quite some time, so yeah, this is the pure rational, or at least speculative side of the ancient mysteries side. But no, like, do I know whether there was for all I know, aliens sent a message and beamed some message into some guy's head? I wasn't there. I don't know. It's a possibility. Were the Anunnaki real? It's a possibility. But at the same time,
intelligent life like us, it's a possibility. Life in general, that's obvious. There's life in the solar system or in the universe. That's
without a doubt, it is mathematically. It is more of a probability that it exists than not. So the idea is how
intelligent life though.
Well, that's
it's a great answer either way, right? Whether we are or whether we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do either one of you guys believe in the reptilian shape-shifting aliens?
Fuck no.
I don't.
Oh, thank God.
That's so stupid.
Okay.
Anunnaki, that was like Stitchin. He made a story up and everyone bought it. That he's like DC Comics or something, and people are taking
falls
it
in the basket of aliens. Sorry, unless they're native Earth. Maybe they're like flat Earth reptiles.
There is no. Don't you watch the Facebook page? There is no flat Earth. I proved that today with the flat Earth solar eclipse.
That was hilarious, by the way. Good one.
Now, okay,
I didn't see it.
Going back to the whole ancient aliens, and again, this is why I love this show, because I riff on ancient aliens a possibility. Reptilians, we finally have a crowd here who's like, reptilians is bullshit. Thank you. Love you guys. You're awesome. Good. Unless the queen's going to take her face off on live TV, great. Someone get a fucking camera, show me, and I will believe you. Until then, I'm thinking it's bullshit. The pyramid, though, built by reptilians, who knows? Were we there? Were the reptilians, did they like the sun? Were they crocodiles that were really advanced? Did they?
We shouldn't even talk about this stuff. I think that's ridiculous. I just, honest to God, this is why I got into
Got any skeletons? I mean, anything?
This is honestly why I did test the pyramids, because I felt like, no bullshit. I'm going to try and apply what I know as a human being that's been working on construction sites for 30 years. Or not 30 years, my whole life.
You guys are quiet. I was waiting until I was waiting to see how long it was for you to chip back in.
I think I'm trying to aim something that's more practical, and as opposed to just saying aliens built it or it's aimed at the stars or whatever else. Like that's why when I found Doug's, when I met Doug online, I was I knew where this was going.
Okay, well, you guys really have your shit going. That's the thing. So I got to say this much. If there was a giant explosion, I'm going to go back here because we're not finished the conversation yet, and I want to at least get to the bottom of your beautiful, amazing brains, since I've got you both on the line here, in panoramic surround sound stereo, which doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to go with it. If there were explosions going on in the King's Gallery, I know that there is somewhat of a dispute between the idea that they were caused by earthquakes, they were caused by the explosion. The bottoms were carved up perfectly, but the upper side of them was not. There are diagrams that show that they were, they were carved and I'm going to say made perfect, quote unquote, to be able to be placed there without much of a here or there. Now I'm going to put this out there just as an idea. I want to get your guys' opinions. If there are acoustics that are going to be produced by this chamber, and the rocks are going to be waved in a certain way. And waves are not just 2D as in a straight line, compression wave, but they're 3D.
Uh-huh.
Is there a possibility that the shape of the rocks would have actually produced a 3D acoustic wave based on a certain idea or a certain concept?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Standing modes, they're very straightforward and they're calculated.
Okay, and going from there, what would have been the purpose of the particular shape of the wave that they were producing?
At least as far as the radar hypothesis goes, I know the frequency that I need coming out of that waveguide. That's going to drive the design backwards, and it's going to tell me the RF frequencies that I need to drive the microwave horn. And so if I build a box that is the exact correct dimensions, then I get the correct wavelength inside that, because only certain wavelengths can stand inside that room. It naturally selects itself just by the nature of acoustics.
Okay, now by stand inside that room, what do you mean?
Oh, standing waves. You have... say we were to put a signal generator in that room and fill it with all frequencies. Some frequencies will bounce off the wall and then cancel as they're coming back. Others will selectively reinforce themselves. That is the nature of the reflection. By the time they get back, they're actually enhancing the sound. That's where the room will have natural resonance. It will select certain wavelengths and enhance those, magnify those, amplify those, while deselecting the others.
It's exactly what I think is going on with the pulse DC that I, theorize is going on between the pyramids. That they created a standing wave with the Earth resonant cavity. Constructively adding to itself again as it reflected back.
And how would they have figured out what wave to be able to actually carve into the stone? Like, even based on speculation.
Well, I think the pyramids actually brought the sound of the Earth into something we could hear, up into our range. Or that's where, with no sound, no AC grid on, and no society, or big heavy machinery around everywhere, we would have had. It would have been quiet, and we could have heard the Earth, and that I think just that a pyramid basically amplified that sound, and they were able to hear it, and so they could tune accordingly.
Okay, now your next book is going to be on the receiving side, like the cycles of the pyramids, which I'm gonna just let the camera zoom up on this. No, gotta get in close.
Yeah, cycles is of the transmitter and of the observatory in a little bit.
Okay. Give us a
But I
sneak.
really did think it was I'm sorry.
Give us a sneak preview. Like explain the relation between the transmitter and the receiver, and give us a little bit of a preview on the next book, and describe how you're working on making that a reality.
Oh, actually, there's a very interesting experiment which has been suggested to me by an old lab buddy of mine who is now the associate professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Indianapolis. I went down and talked to him, and we spoke for a good couple hours over the whole thing. And he actually suggested an interesting experiment. We didn't get to. I think we actually hinted on it, that the upper chambers are being pumped full of water, so they end up boiling, and the whole thing is basically full of steam because, as Danny said, the steam actually enhances the efficiency of the electrolysis that we're splitting. So this thing, basically you have to think of it as basically it's a steam fountain. Outside of that air shaft, it's pumping large amounts of boiling water, which is flying out, forming a cloud in between the pyramids. But of course, the Earth is moving in that direction, so anything that the big one is putting out, the middle one is going to intercept. So I've got this big, huge ionized cloud of condensing water, and that does some very interesting physics. This is not something we really do today. I mean, I can look at it and from a technical problem go, I wonder what that does. But my buddy, the professor, suggested, well, why don't you actually build an experiment to do that? And so I'm actually trying to figure out how I can inject some steam 15, 20, 50 meters up in the air and take advantage of the natural voltage gradient that the Earth puts out and actually model how the transmitter is interacting with the receiver, which was the original question. That's there's a lot that gets into it of how strong the signal is when it leaves versus how weak it is when it gets back, what techniques they were using to amplify the signal. It is small, but it's not ridiculously small. It looks like a small number, but we deal with radio signals like that all the time. You no doubt have this enormous structure. If I was just to suggest, and I'm not suggesting, but if I was to suggest at some point in their past they were covered with metal, who would know? It's a safe bet that anything metal was taken off of them a long time ago. And it's the nature of radio antennas that you don't even need a lot of metal.
Yeah, pure dielectric structure.
Yeah, the structure itself uses different materials with different electrical characteristics, and it's constructed in novel ways that take advantage of those differences. As you said, it's just genius. The design, everything is in there for a purpose, and it's just when you see something, you have to just keep riddling yourself. Well, what is that for? What was the reason why they did that? Why did they put it that way?
But I would do the John Anthony West accent. Search me. But I can't do I cannot do his level of British, unfortunately. But still, the idea is to be able to find the secrets within the pyramid. It begs to be searched. It begs to be discovered, and it begs to be found out. It was placed there for a reason. Like, not haphazardly. You don't spend 120 years building something for shits and giggles as a fucking monument. It does not happen. That does not exist.
Can I ask you a question?
Go right. Well,
120 years. I'll use your number. 120 years to show us what Orion looks like.
Awesome.
So what? We forget what it looks like? Oh shit! What was that?
Sir, 120 years. Like that is that's a
We're
number.
We're going to build the structure so that we remember what Orion looks like in the sky.
They remember what it looks like in 10,500 BC.
Sure, it hasn't changed. The asterisms haven't changed significantly over that time frame.
Precisely. But the position from where it was 10,500 BC. That is something that is considered fact at this point.
Oh, sure. It's at the lowest point, and it's
okay.
We see it in procession.
So what is the question? It wasn't quite.
But it does that like every great circle, right? It's going to do that. Well, why not say it was 24,000 years before that?
Well, it's a possibility. We don't know. We weren't alive then. But sorry, what was the exact question? Because I got a number.
Oh, I'm just saying. Okay, you're pointing out very, very aptly so.
Mhm.
If this thing has to have as Stephen Meyer said, a return on investment. What's the return on investment that the civilization gets for investing,
Well,
several generations worth of their labor,
oh
of
shit.
their resources? Um, and if the whole purpose is what the Orion correlation theory suggests that is so we know what Orion looked like. I don't understand what the whole point of putting Orion on the ground is when all you got to do is look up in the sky and there it is. And by the way, if you look up in the sky, it's not upside down.
Well, it's not like that was actually BBC did this whole thing like, oh, it's not upside down, like it's upside down. No, like they actually recount that entire like that entire statement.
Now they let Graham and John and Robert come in to try to explain their position,
Well,
but
BBC
it's
fucked up.
upside down. You can't argue that the asterism points up and the pyramids point down
Well,
to the
that's
south and one points to the north.
well well
But they even wrote a whole nother book explaining why you got to tilt your head back and look at it this way, and then it works. But I don't really want to talk about the OCT.
Yeah. Don't waste our time.
How much
I'll put it-
scotch you got? I got like more than half a bottle left. I can go all night.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I got nothing but time. But yeah, you're right. 120 years. It really needs to do something for them to justify that. And honestly, I can see why they might do some stuff, but I don't think they really gave two hoots about us. They're not trying to throw knowledge forward to us at all. They're trying to deal with their own problems any more than we're worrying about what somebody 10,000 years from us is going to be doing with our stuff.
Well, think about it this way: it's like
10,000.
you
lay out like what would survive. I'm thinking of the Apollo program. Probably the flame trench would survive. If anything, that'd be the last thing that would survive, right? So maybe 10,000 years from now, they're going to come and study the flame trench, and they're going to figure this is where they buried their kings, right? You line it up this way so the soul can get off to the stars. And maybe somebody will come along and go, I really think they put rockets over this, and the fire went out that way. And actually, they're going, why would they do that? What's the point of going into space with rockets? Why would they spend all this time to do that?
Because the Russians were after us with their...
because there was a military reason. That's a very good answer. Because we have to lift our bombs.
So who would have been the alternate force?
Back then?
Well, again, if they're building this pyramid again,
I think it's the rocks, though. I think they were fighting the rocks just like we do. I think that at some point our civilization as a space-going civilization needs to wake up and assume the responsibility for the planet. And we have the technology to stop these rocks. We know they're coming. It's a when. It's not an if. And we need to start dealing with it seriously. Certainly a lot more than just spending blood and treasure over in the sand somewhere. Let's actually try to spare our species. Now, of course, we have to get off this rock too. We need to start sending our people out there and spreading our genetics around, so in case the worst happens.
So what you're saying is we need to be like Captain Kirk, green women.
There we go, reptilian green women.
Doug, what kind of symbology have you come across as far like in all the Egyptology and everything like pertaining to cycles?
Actually, I haven't really looked at it that much. One thing that's interested me that just came across some interesting research the other day where somebody's interpreting the hieroglyphs as technical symbols. And I really wanted to think about that more. There's that big question of how much the dynastics actually understood of what they had inherited. They came in, they got all this stuff that, as I understand it, at least didn't have any writing on it. And then they came through and carved all this writing all over it. Sometimes without even not sure what something was or how it was made. Let's just, if the enemies are coming in, then of course we made all this stuff, right?
Yeah, seem big and powerful.
But no, I haven't really looked into it that much. To me, the physics of falling water doesn't matter what you're calling or what symbols you're using to describe it. It's pick a unit system. It's going to fall that fast, and everything else goes from there.
I feel the same way, but I've noticed that I hear that the pyramids connected with the realms of the gods, and then for some reason that just makes me think about how life and electricity are intrinsically connected, and that maybe the pyramids are connecting with this realm, this electrical realm, that maybe they thought electricity was like another realm, much like Tesla thought the ether was the ether. I know the ether's been disproven. But just still need to think about that and that connection there, or even how about Hakim's indigenous teaching saying, the pyramids were for the people to feed the people. That always bugged me. because it's like, pyramids to feed the people. What? Like?
Oh, no. That's actually a possibility because the pyramids are placed on a certain position within the global sphere that actually promotes growth within that area. And if you go back to our episode of with John Michael Greer, he outlines the entire concept. And even episode 9, we had Ross Hamilton on, who said that people would build these structures on certain areas of ground that they knew based on the knowledge that they had to be able to promote growth. It was on the ley lines of the earth. And this was able to, make the land more fertile. And
actually, I wondered at some point, as a fountain, this thing would have the ability, of course, to pump lots and lots of water in the air.
Water is nothing without nutrients. You can have a lot of water if the soil's worth shit.
I wonder if I wish John Cabot could call in. I wonder if he could comment on this even in the chat. He in one of his videos online, he talks about how the dimensions of the shafts of the subterranean chamber and the pulse system, it could actually pump water to the height of the pyramid, and just that height, just there, and it could. I was thinking that maybe they were pumping water to the top of the pyramid to let it percolate down for conductivity, making the stone more conductive. And that always
up what conduit though? There's nothing that goes all the way up to the top.
Well, maybe it's that the perk shaft, or maybe there's a horizontal, a vertical shaft detected next to the horizontal shaft in the descending passage. Maybe that shaft is what pumped water to the top of the pyramid, and then the water would leak through the sieve that is limestone.
And that's what.
I actually do think that they probably had some sort of a service elevator during construction because they've got all that hydraulic pressure there. You'd find some way just to lift your rocks all the way to the top. Rather than ramping them up or carrying them up, you just build a little service elevator that's big enough to zip, send them up. Zip, there goes another one. Zip, there goes another one.
Why? And I thought when I first heard of Myers'
John's
concept,
right. Yeah, according to John's model and the equation, this thing could easily pump water higher than itself.
Yeah, well, I thought actually, and knowing that, like Steve Myers, his water, building system, like let's say they didn't use locks around the pyramid. Let's say they actually built it internally. So it's a combination of maybe Jean-Pierre and using water, Jean-Pierre Houdin's theory and Steve Myers' theory with pumping water inside and moving blocks around using buoyancy. That would make it easy on building the pyramids. I could see myself building a pyramid if it was easy to do, and especially if water was around and I could stay cool all day.
Yeah, that's what I originally thought about the spraying the water all over. What's the point? This whole thing depends on an abundance of water to begin with. There would have to be an easier way to get it there. And then why also do you have to align the thing to the cardinal points of the planet? All that sort of stuff. Make it a scale model of the Earth. Why are you doing all this if it's just a fountain? So.
No, I would see it more as a prosperity machine in terms of if you align it right, if it's done right, then it's going to be able to produce the right results, which is to enrich the crops, enrich the soil by bringing that energy up to be able to make things work better. And Jesus Christ, Danny, Big Sexy Chris? No. That's Big Sexy Alex. He's not here right now. And Alex is actually in chat. Alex is in chat, and I'm sorry. I'm going to bring Alex into the.
What's your nickname? What's your nickname though? Did
Chris
I just nickname
George
you?
Zuger. No, you didn't.
No, that's not your nickname.
No,
it's BSC now. Yeah.
Oh, you can't have two Big Sexies. You can't. It's impossible. That's too much awesome for one show. That is too much awesome for one show.
Drinking scotch in a vest, doing a show, man.
Sorry, I'm wearing the vest because my mom was watching. Thank you very much. I look good because my mom's like, you got to look good. So let me just add Alex in here because he's actually online now. So I'm gonna bring him in here. So, Alex.
Hello.
You missed quite a lot, man. Hello.
Yeah, I'm
Alex?
here. Can you hear me?
Yay!
We're at the top of the show, but still, you made the effort. You logged on to Skype. How was your night?
My night was fantastic. I risottos, mushroom risottos, and a rib dinner and wine. I couldn't resist.
You know, it's fantastic. And I'm glad that you're at least on the show from where you are. At the same time, where were we before? Fountains, Ross Hamilton, a Prosperity Machine. How many guys here with this train of thought? Oh, vests. My mom, Big Sexy Chris. No, not my.
I do
not
like
my
the vest.
Well, thank you very much, but that is not my nickname. Not my nickname. Oh, this is what happens when you're like non-smoking for like 3 hours. Ooh, shit! Do not smoke, people. Quit smoking. Get your smoke aid somewhere else.
I want to know what Alex thinks about Doug's concept.
Oh, I thought we were asking about the reptile people.
Oh, come on.
I mean, everybody knows reptiles love fountains.
Oh, God.
Okay, yeah, I'm sold. Yeah.
They do. They like heat lamps.
Oh shit! I didn't think of that. Okay.
Well, guys, like this is something like we can save this for the next show on the 21st, unless something happens, which then we'll do a Thursday show, and we'll have the entire Jod Cameron, Danny Kerr and Doug Keenan cavalcade on this one show with Alex actually in the studio. Alex, I've had to carry the entire show without you here. I'm kind of a little bit energized, but at the exact same time, yeah.
You're running out of adrenaline?
Like a boss, Chris, like a boss.
Oh, Alex, we need an intern to be able to run the graphics. I swear to God. Yeah. I swear to God. Now, I know one thing is like we're going to transition into the final segment of the night, which is the, and I didn't even get the new music on the show. It's the send Denver Michaels a sandwich contest. I'll get music for next week, hopefully, or tomorrow, or we'll see. So I'm going to add Denver onto the show to see how things are going with the sandwiches that have been sent in. Let's see, add people. Who's online? Denver Michaels.
Hey, can I throw in the real simple one of just doing a layer of smooth peanut butter on one side and crunchy peanut butter on the other, and then just put the jelly in the middle?
You have to send
I've never tried that.
info@denoflore.com. That's the only official
okay,
entry.
Just throwing that one out there then.
Or to the Twitter page at Den of Lore. But we do not take on-air submissions of recipes. It's just not fair. So let me see what Denver's up to. Denver. Mr. Denver Michaels. We have life. Denver, how are you doing, buddy?
How's it going, man?
Oh my God! My mom is listening to this show right now, and she's probably quite surprised I'm actually like upright still. She's like, "Oh, but like even Dad listened to the show, and he's like very excited that he was watching on YouTube." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Oh, this is like me in elementary school with the nativity play that we played in grade 6 all over again. But still, the fact that my parents are supporting that's amazing to me. Now, I have not sent you her recipe yet, so I'm saving that till like next week. But I know that you were sent in a recipe from Alani like in the last 5 days, which was your cue.
Yeah. Let's see here. We got two. The first one that I tried was a let's see. Let me look through my notes here. It was peanut butter, strawberry jam, and lots of bacon. The bread was toasted, and it was really good. I gave that an 8. That was a really good combination.
Sorry, you give a sandwich with bacon an 8. Really?
Yeah, I mean,
shit, man. Oh God.
Bacon's supposed to be a 10. Yeah.
Well, the bacon goes better with meat or cheese than peanut butter and jelly, but it did kind of liven up the peanut butter and jelly a little bit.
Denver, do you know I have not sent you a sandwich recipe of my own yet?
Yeah, when's that going to happen?
Because, well, first of all, I want to be able to keep the field open, and second of all, because I would win.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because I've got the breakfast sandwich that would knock anyone's socks off.
Okay, well, I do love breakfast
Oh,
sandwiches.
my goodness. It was
Yeah.
actually made by... My wife does not listen to this show. I'm going to say that right flat out. She does not listen to this show at all. Ancient history and ancient mysteries is not her bag. River dancing is her bag. Now,
Ugh.
so I'm going to say this flat out. My ex-fiance from 10 years ago made a kick-ass breakfast sandwich that I actually made better based on the fact that she was a chef. Now, I know that recipe. I'm not going to send that in because it's not fair, for one, for my wife, and two, because I want other people to get this sandwich, this sandwich. Send Denver Michaels a sandwich contest prize. Now, I can tell you this recipe. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to throw this in here as a grand prize winner. For all the individuals listening at home, I'm going to look right into the camera. If you want the best fucking breakfast sandwich recipe ever, send your recipe for a sandwich in to info@denoflore.com or tweet at us at Den of Lore on Twitter. Send us a message on Facebook. I don't care. But if you win, you get 3 signed copies of Denver Michaels' books, in addition to the best fucking breakfast sandwich you'll ever fucking have. I'm looking at you right in the eyes right now. Right now. Like look at me right here. It will change your life. And if it doesn't, I will mow your lawn.
I just gave the secret recipe in the chat.
I'm looking at Facebook right. I'm not even in the chat. Oh shit! What did you? What? No. Sorry, it is not a BLT. No, it is not
What?
a BLT. You were
No,
wrong.
then you haven't had a proper BLT.
Oh, trust me, I've had a proper BLT.
I don't know. No, maybe you overcooked bacon.
Are you accusing a Canadian of overcooking bacon, sir?
Oh, sorry,
I will
actually,
drive
sorry.
the 7 hours down there to slap you in the face with my trout that I caught with myself, my own 2 bare
I
hands
retract that comment.
from the river, like a bear, and took back with me to Cure in my igloo, where we have these lovely drapes hung right now. It is very cold in here right now, I swear. Now, so an 8 for a Lonnie sandwich was 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and I tried the other sandwich. There were 2, and I think the first one was probably more just a troll job. It called for toasted dark rye. Let's see, toasted dark rye, crunchy peanut butter, and dill pickles. I gave that a 2.5. That everything about that sandwich was repulsive.
Okay, so in the worst sandwich category, and I'm going to give the listeners at home and the viewers at home a scale here. So the best sandwich, number one sandwich gets 3 signed copies of Denver Michaels' book. The second place winner gets 1 copy signed of their choice of the 3 books from Denver Michaels. Now, and this is Denver's faux pas, which we're going to run with because, oh my God, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
the worst. Up. Yeah, you fucked up hardcore, bro, and I swear to God.
I mean, I'm taking it hard with some of these sandwiches right now.
The worst sandwich recipe gets 1 free book of their choice, not signed, but just a book to go.
Actually, I'll sign it. I don't care. I'll sign it.
Well,
it don't matter.
You have to give like the second place 2 signed books, and the last place. Okay. So
we can do that.
Okay, we'll do that. So the first place gets 3 signed books. Second place gets 2 signed books, and the worst gets a signed book or a book of their choice signed. Either way, you get a book and it's signed or not. Either way, if your sandwich is really shitty, and please, for the love of God, don't kill Denver. We love him. My mom appreciates his voice. He's the reason she listens to the show. Never forget the fact that her son is running a show. He's like, that Denver Michaels guy, you got to keep him. His voice is nice. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, keep Denver on the show. We're good. So please do not try and kill Denver Michaels with your sandwiches. That is appreciated. edible, barely edible, please. Like, not like gross, like anything that's outwardly disgusting or completely shit where I'm not gonna send to him. But like, just like if it's like, oh, my parents made like a burnt grilled cheese and like they put it on for extra time, or like they put like grilled cheese with like fucking tomatoes, or like they put onions in their bacon or something like that. Like it's just like something weird like that I'll take. But if it's gonna kill Denver, I'm gonna like put the kibosh in that shit right away. So so who is the leader right now, Denver?
Right. Actually, before that, there was one more sandwich. I don't know if this one got sent in to you. I was following along on the live chat last week, and somebody put this down, and I wrote it down. This was so I don't know what their name is, but their name on the chat was Ancient Agenda, and they had a peanut butter and cheese whiz. So. Yeah, that was kind of gross. So I gave that a 4.
Okay, well, Ancient Agenda is not in the chat tonight, but Ancient Agenda from YouTube chat, you were in the running. info@denoflore.com. Get a hold of us now. We will make sure your voice is heard, and your voice was heard last week. Thank you for following the program, and for sending in that somewhat okay sandwich that might get you a book. So. That is pretty awesome.
So the leader is still, after all this time, the leader is still Kevin from Nebraska with the Buffalo Chicken Grilled Cheese with a 9.25 score.
My mom's tuna fish will kill that shit, I swear.
You think? I mean, it was a strong sandwich.
Okay, it's Indian with a little bit of tandoori and like, some curry powder with like some Eastern European spice. I sustained my life off of that for 6 months. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Buffalo grilled cheese, man. That's all American right there.
I'm Canadian, so what?
USA.
I don't know. Got to come down to Virginia and try some of this shit. That's what we have to be able to do. We'll go to West Virginia. We'll do some like some cryptid searching, and what will probably happen is I will find a fucking glowing orb again. And you'll be like off taking a piss and you'll miss the entire thing, because that is my fucking luck. I swear.
Or I'll take a really bad video or picture of it, like my coyote picture that I showed you.
You're like on the Dental Floor website, like I think it's like early 2017, late 2016. I actually put like a post, and I had a picture of this glowing orb that I found. I'm like, I'm a fucking statistic. Like, it is not discernible at all from the background or anything. Like, this could be anything. Like, it could be a street light. I could be blowing smoke up people's asses. I don't know. Like, so I'm thinking, like, oh my god, I've joined the cadre of people who are going to post UFO images, and it's just some blowing image, like some blurry light off in the distance. I'm like, fuck. But it still happened. I know that it happened. But I can't.
It's hard to get pictures of stuff like that, man. Like animals are the same way. It's when you're surprised and trying to get a good quick picture, sometimes your brain just kind of freezes up, or you can't get it focused in. I mean, it happens.
Well, at the same time, you had an entire book about water monsters south of the border. Did you see any while you were down there? You went to the Amazon. Nothing.
No, I didn't see shit, man.
Jesus Christ, that fucking sucks.
I know, but I mean, if you think about it, it's of course I would like to see something, but in my view, we're talking about a very limited number of these creatures, and if you could classify them or could prove that they exist, I mean, more likely than not, I mean, they're endangered species, right? I mean, because there's so few of them, and then you're in vast tracts of land. I mean, if you go out in the woods with the intent of seeing a bear, and there's lots of bears, it's hard to. It's sometimes. I mean, you can't even find signs of one. But that they're there. So it's just the nature of the beast, I guess.
Do you think they taste good on a sandwich?
Oh, I'm sure. Probably better than Ellen's recipe.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm killing Ellen's recipe. I hope she's not offended. I'm just joking.
Okay. Gentlemen, brethren, Denver, we always appreciate everything you do for the show. You promote, you talk about us. You join into the chat, and you are a good sport, and we love you to death. And thank you very much for being a part of this absolutely, I think, like, what's the most absolute absurd contest I could run at a radio show? I'm like, fucking make some goddamn sandwiches. I'm like, let's get Denver involved, and let's make this shit happen, because he's out there in the woods. I'm like, you're traveling, you're honest to God, doing the hard work that I cannot do here in Ottawa. I'm like, I want to take care of this guy. So let's get him some recipes. So send those recipes in to info@denoflore.com, or via Twitter at denoflore, via Facebook, just like go facebook.com/denoflore, or search for me, Chris George Zuger, and add me as a friend. And if your Facebook profile is not too weird, I may say okay. We'll go from there, and we will get you some fucking free books about some cool ass shit from the world of cryptids, from our cryptid researcher in the field, Denver Michaels. Now, are Danny and Doug still on the call?
I'm here.
Thank
I don't
God.
friend people unless they have weird Facebook pages.
Well, I got a pretty good, like, weird Facebook page. Mine's like all cat videos and geology, some science
And
posts.
the flat Earth stuff.
I make fun of
Oh,
flat
God.
Earth. Oh my God.
Did you
Good
get a
for you.
chance to
Good
see
for
that
you. We
story in the
should.
post today?
All I'm gonna say is, Darren, if you're listening to the show, dick clips. You know.
The
That's-
Commissions knew they were round. They wrote their numbers down in stone.
So, gentlemen, we have, and Danny, until you can actually get me an outro song that is original, that no one else has, I've got two choices for outro songs, which is Scattered Knowledge and Spellbound. Which do you gentlemen want to close out the show?
Spellbound.
Cool with me.
Good enough. Denver, you okay with that? Denver's gone. Son of a bitch. He left the show. He left the chat without even saying
I sent him
goodbye.
a sandwich recipe. He said, and then that was it. He just-
Oh,
I'm honestly feeling it now. I could keep going.
You can feel it. But the sandwiches or the pyramids?
A couple drinks in me. I feel like talking now. So,
Perfect.
Where the fuck were you 3 hours ago?
I know.
Tuned for the encore show.
Yeah. Well, next time. What's this 21st?
Encore.
Encore. Okay, we'll do a hangover like now. I've got like a ton of chat. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. Oh shit, we have a new sandwich entry that I'm gonna send to Denver from from Nicolo. From Nicolo, I'm gonna send to Denver now. So we're gonna do a hangover show like in about 10:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm gonna close the show. Give me half an hour. Half an hour. We're gonna do a hangover. It's gonna be a call-in show. So like send your call-ins to like you want to shoot the shit with the guests. We'll do that live on air. We'll have some laughs. I'm gonna get more drunk with some scotch, and we're not some Glenfiddich 12,
Cool.
and we'll have a good time. Just like let me use the washroom and have a smoke, and we're good to go. So I'm gonna play Spellbound.
Actually, just really quick, while we're still,
Shit.
live or whatever, before you do the song, I just want everybody to know that I think Doug really did a world's first, and he's the first person that I know of to calculate the internal structures of the pyramids as an internal engine, or internal combustion engine.
Okay.
That's
Doug,
That's a long line of people that did a whole lot of work.
but built on the shoulders of giants. Granted, I think
Including Tesla.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
Doug-
you amalgamated
you
so
have
many
1
different.
month. You have 1 month until the 21st or 20th. Sometime that week, you've got 1 month.
420.
420. You have 1 month. We'll do a 420 show. You have one month ish to 3 weeks to get this entire thing in layman's terms to be able to describe to everyone out there in YouTube land and iTunes land and whomever actually listens to the show to explain your entire position so that we can understand it in dollars and cents. So,
How about if I can get it to where Danny can understand it, then it goes from there. Because Danny's good at explaining things. I'm a nerd.
well,
Anyway, I like.
okay, you've got 2 weeks to get it to like Danny's level. He has another week to get it to our level. How about that?
Well, it's either that or I have to explain it to my wife, and she doesn't listen to the show either.
Yeah.
Well, thank God for that, because she'd probably like not let you come on here if that were the case.
She's actually cool with this.
Get drunk, have fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, not only that, but the whole idea.
Scotch learns
just the-
cool shit. Yes. Good.
When you don't find a mummy in a tomb, it's probably not a tomb.
Oh no, that makes sense. That's fine. Yeah, that makes sense. That's my wife.
Yeah, and when you find evidence of like the wear and tear in the subterranean chamber from water pressures, and you have salt build up in the Queen's chamber and scorched granite in the King's chamber, you have a trifecta of problems for Egyptologists to explain. So, and that's what we're trying to do here.
All right.
Academics.
Okay, so that's all well and good. I'm going to play the outro song, and that's Spellbound from Broke for Free. Available on Free Music Archive. So, ladies and gentlemen, within 30 minutes, we're going to be on The Hangover. Stick around, stay online. If you see this, these contact numbers right here, we're going to be taking your phone calls from these numbers right here, live with the gentleman that I've got online right now, and we're going to take your questions live on air on The Hangover, because I'm not going to be able to do this show tomorrow morning, and we're going to have some fun. So, yeah. Thanks,
guys.
Thank you for the hundreds of people who listened into the original episode of the Dental Lore. I do this show because I love it. Alex joins me because, well, we drink scotch and he loves it. And it's a good time. So, if you want to support the show, again, go to dental. If you want to be able to support the show, go to dentalfloor.com. In the top right-hand corner, there is a Support the Show tab. Click that tab and send us $1 to be able to support the show. The servers and equipment and email and everything that makes the show possible costs money. We do not take ad revenue. I do not want sponsors in the show who are going to say, Chris, you said XYZ, we're going to fucking pull our sponsorship. I would tell them to go fuck themselves anyway if they did that. But to be able to make sure that does not happen, support the show. Send us $1 if you're listening to the show. dentalfloor.com. Click support the show at the top right hand corner. Send us $1 if you find this valuable. If you get any type of value out of this, support it, and we will make sure we can do more. We get tens of thousands of views per week on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, you name it. And if everyone says $1 in, we can do this 5 days a fucking week. So if you want to hear more from what we're given, we can give it. So yeah, until then, we will see you in half an hour for sticking on for The Hangover. And if you're going to peace out like a square, then we will see you tomorrow, where we got Scotty Roberts on and Aaron Sheik. We're going to talk some recovery, metaphysical shit, and some Rosicrucianism, maybe some Hermeticism, some magic, and we're going to get to the bottom of this whole ancient Egyptian philosophy, and maybe talk some magic literature too. So, bye all. I will see you on The Hangover in half an hour.